Ladies and gentlemen, we have a very special episode today, and I'm going to bring you to the future of where these AI agents are going. And I'm extremely proud of this amazing sponsorship and partnership with Factory AI, who is sponsoring this entire weekend so that we can kind of take a first look. And I thought, if y'all are going to be sponsoring me, we got to basically hang out with my friends and code together. So what I have is a special deal for you right now. If you want to check this out, all you have to do is just go to rfer.me/factory there below. And you're going to basically just get 2 months for free so that you can go ahead and start cooking with me live. So I want you to kind of get that going and set up right now. All you have to do is bust out your phone right now and scan that barcode. And it's actually down there below. And I want to go ahead and see if I can go ahead and type this in the chat, because there's also folks who are going to be joining us on X and also going to be joining us on LinkedIn. So rfer.me/Ray Factory. So if you type this in, or if you actually go to this URL, I'm going to go ahead and bring this up over here. I know it's kind of covering this thing for now, but I'm going to put this right here. So what we're going to go ahead and talk about is, how is this the future of AI coding? Is this actually going to take over as far as like the way that we program and do software? I have lots and lots of questions, and this kind of also hit me out of nowhere because I've heard about Factory about like a year ago or so, and then they started to come on the scene, but it turns out they were only really available for enterprise customers. And so what ends up happening here is that like now it's actually generally available to everyone else and we can onboard. And when I started using it, I was like, yo, this is pretty crazy. And when I actually started to dig through the details a little bit further, I started to find out that they are actually thinking completely differently. And it's not about an agent going to just take over your job, but it's about kind of taking over those pain points in software development. I used to be an engineer at Apple for 12 years, and I thought, man, this is like, it's a pain in the butt to think about trying to develop software again in this new era. And with the advent of AI, it is just really amazing that it's been trying to take over all these tasks. So these two founders have basically taken it a step further, and we're going to be taking a look live together. And what they've done is basically, they've done similar things that what I was doing like last year, where I was basically copying, pasting from ChatGPT and trying to make this, my agent available. And as you've been watching my live streams, we've been kind of coding live to make sure that we're kind of like on the cutting edge of what these language models can do. And so the promise here is the fact that they actually did a benchmark and they're smoking everyone else's agents, even like the models and stuff, with their stuff as far as like accuracy on terminal bench. And what's going to be interesting here is going to see like these droids, or what they're calling droids, are going to be supposedly be able to kind of take over our development workflow and take on various personas and take like the planning parts that we do in software development, all the other things that we do that we really don't like refactoring code, maintaining product plans, like having like even just asking questions about your repo and hopping into things that are like legacy code. This agent is supposed to kind of take over a lot of those types of tasks. And it's not an actual integrated development environment. It's actually something that's completely dedicated, like in its own like web. It also has a command line interface, which we're going to be using. And I'm actually going to use this actually inside of Cursor, and I can kind of show you how to get this configured. So in order to get this configured, what we're going to go ahead and do is just kind of go to the overview here. I'll drop these docs/getting started in this little directory. And so hopefully, if you haven't had a chance, if you want to get those 2 free months or 40 million tokens, scan the code below, and it's rfer.me/Ray Factory. And then that'll get you, like go ahead and just sign in with your Google account or create an account if you want to. And then we're just going to go ahead and get started on these docs. So you'll probably see this on the live stream link below as well. And so when we go through here, all we have to do to get started is run this command line interface here. So just curl this /sh. And then we're just going to go ahead and navigate to whatever we want to do for our project. And we're just going to go ahead and start our session. So the way we start our session is just typing in Droid. And then we're going to go ahead and kind of begin there. So if you haven't had a chance, go ahead and start doing that. What's going to be really great is I'm going to have timestamps for this live stream later on. So if you want to go back to YouTube and kind of reference what's happening, you're going to be able to kind of come back and kind of watch our getting started. And so what I thought I'd do today with you guys is kind of hang out, answer any questions. And also we're going to basically build some features. And then I'm going to see if I can try to build something from scratch as well. I might just turn this to like an all-day stream because it's low-key very addicting. It's been taking a lot of parts of like my software workflow and, trying to like shove it in here. But I only got to play with it at the very beginnings to understand like what is really going on. So I'm using this live stream to actually kind of take it apart. So you'll actually see my raw thoughts and my raw thinking. And as if you've seen other competitors and other different types of things, like, you know, the Replit agent, as I was going through it, I ran into so many issues. And if I do run into issues here, I'm going to tell the truth. And as an added bonus, I'm actually going to interview the founders tomorrow. So any questions that we have, any frustrations and stuff, we can also bring it over to the next live stream. And not only will we kind of digging deeper into their core mission and all these different stuff that I've been learning about, but at the same time, these guys are extremely responsive and want to do some stuff. So I'm extremely proud to partner with them because these are some folks who are really serious in the software industry. They already have a lot of enterprise customers, and yeah, without further ado, let's cook, fam. So yeah, that's the getting started docs there. Let me make sure I got this here. And then, okay, so now we got that, and we have the factory stuff set up. So once you're kind of logged in and you got stuff going on, you can just kind of get started with the terminal, which is kind of what I've been doing. So if I just go into Cursor, there is an actual plugin that you can get set up. And so let me just kind of get rid of some of these things to kind of make it a little bit clearer. So here at the bottom, if you just run Droid, it's going to just kick off their terminal thing here. So and then once you get the actual terminal set up, it's going to ask you to like integrate it inside of like VS Code. So I have Cursor, but VS Code is a fork of Cursor is a fork of VS Code. And what it's going to go ahead and do is going to actually go to the extensions here, and it's going to install a thing called Factory. And all that Factory does is just presents itself like a little icon up here. So at any time, you can actually run Factory and select that up there. So that's basically just going to install this little extension, and you're pretty much ready to go. And so just like any of the other IDEs, what you're just going to go ahead and do is just basically start to just give it any type of task that you want to do. And so what I've done so far is I have an app called Ray Transcribes. And to be honest, like I've vibe coded this entire app. And as you can see with Claude Sonnet and Claude Opus and every single IDE I've been using, this has really gotten crazily out of hand. So, you know, not only do I have hooks, but my hooks have hooks for them. My services have files, and then like I have utility files. I have stuff for what I'm doing on transcriptions. And this thing has really gotten out of hand. As I add new features, you can kind of see how out of hand. See, like my hooks have hooks, right? So like in my dictionary, I have like these types of things. And I don't know if you realize this, but when you're coding with AI, a lot of times it's just going to keep adding more features, and Claude Sonnet's so happy to kind of keep adding more things. So my goal here is to see like, can we put Droid to the test? Can I like help refactor some of this code and clean some of this up while also shipping a new feature? Let's try it out, you know? So what I've done so far is I've started kind of like a conversation, and I can kind of, let me show you this conversation I've been having so far. So in this conversation, this is a pretty long conversation, so I wanted to kind of just jumpstart us here to get started. So I basically told it I wanted to refactor my app. And what I'm doing is I'm rewriting the route handler. And what's happening is like on Convex, like I want to kind of move everything over to Convex. I was just using Next.js, and I was basically having all my transcriptions run through my Next.js route that's actually hosted on Cloudflare. And there is like some performance problems and other types of things that I want to speed up, but I want to make sure that I can do that. So I basically was just yapping into my microphone and kind of captured a lot of the pieces that I normally would want to do. And I've been putting this off because this is a really big refactor and it's extremely risky. But I said, like, why don't we just kind of start to generate a plan for this? And typically, I would have to make my own planning documents and review a lot of stuff, but this Droid has access to the web. So I just do app.factory.ai. On the web, I connected it over, and I gave it like various documentation links. And I even gave it a link to my documentation README, which actually has an idea here. And in the interface here, we actually have this little thing that shows you the context of all the files that it's currently grabbing. So we can actually see what the agent is actually pulling into its context, what files it's read, and anything that's updated in its memory. And then there's an integrated context as far as like my repo. So this actually has a file that has information about my repo. And so this is basically a summary of like what the directory structure is. And this basically helps the agent understand where the code is in my repo. And so this is kind of cool little preview that you can kind of see within what it's doing. And so what Factory did was it basically kicks off a process. And at the very bottom, you can actually select which model you want to use for your reasoning levels. And so I selected GPT-5 High. And the reason I selected that over Claude Sonnet or Claude Opus is I've been really enjoying GPT-5, its thoroughness and its ability to think an extended window. And I chose the high because of that reasoning level. And so we're basically using factory AIs like Droid context management here and having it basically do research on my behalf. And it's basically did a lot of thinking. And this is my favorite way to actually code. It's just like I drop in as an engineer what I want to do, what goals I want to accomplish, where I think things are, and I have this overall understanding of the repo in my head, and I just kind of dumped it all in there as like one big thought. And previously, when we're using agentic coding, what I would have to do is that like I would have to like break apart all of my thinking in these different chunks. And every single step along the way, this is why I put off this refactor, is because I've literally have just like, I don't want to do this because I don't want to like, I keep losing track. I have to, go to take care of my family. I have to do these other types of things. And, every single interruption introduces more delay. And so I was like, I could just dump this in here and just like, let's just see what happens. Right. And so that's what we've done. And it's last night was just kind of churning through a lot of what it was, trying to really understand what's happening in my repo, what's happening in my code. And I find this really, really interesting as far as like this type of task. And, later on in a different live stream, probably in the next couple of days or two, we can probably compare it to Cursor, or we can probably compare it to some other types of agents and stuff to see how this does. And so what it did is it actually came back with a plan for me, which is really awesome. And then what I did was just I reviewed the plan and gave it some more feedback. And so this is the feedback I gave it, about data retention, about how I want to reprocess transcriptions should they fail, and so forth. And so that kind of keeps going here. And so this is now like the final like migration architecture spec. And I must say it's extremely good at writing specs, which is pretty awesome. And then even like recounts the high level flow. And so this planning process to me is kind of really thorough here. And so where I really want to like kind of push the boundaries here is like, not only do we have this really nice plan, but I want to take this plan and actually integrate it and have the droids write the code for us. So that's what we're going to go ahead and do as well. So this is the plan. And this is actually migrating my own custom code that I have for my route handler over to the AI SDK, which in of itself is a whole nother, I'm just giving it like lots of features. I'm just saying, bro, let's just kind of do this thing. So this is even telling me about the migration rollout and everything. So here's some risk mitigations. Here's the implementation phases that it broke down. Here's the acceptance criteria. The planning is just ridiculous. And I said, just to be sure, we're going to be running the AI SDK, right? And I'm just kind of making sure that it kind of does some of these things. And I give it back some reference documents as well for the web. And then it does some more thinking. And then it actually does some updates for the findings. This is really, really cool. So that's a lot. The reason why I kind of wanted to explain what's happening here is because there's a lot that's been happening in this conversation. And this is kind of my preferred way of coding, is like making sure this big refactor is kind of really detailed. And I actually don't know what the results are. So we're going to find out at the same time. And if you haven't had a chance to, make sure you check out that link below, rfer.me/factory. Factory AI is currently sponsoring the stream this weekend. And they've given us access to 2 free months, so you can check out Factory AI up to like 40 million tokens, basically. And so I would suggest you go ahead and get started with that while I'm kind of explaining this type of thing, so we can kind of code together live as well. So Good Max is saying with the heart, you converted me, man. Oh man, no way. I pretty much always run on VPS now, but let me try local. Yeah, we're about to. I don't know. It's about to be really, really crazy here. So yeah, I'm really excited for this live stream. And as you can tell, but I wanted to make sure I had all this context in here for y'all because, I'm really trying to push the limits of these AI agents. And I think I want to be impressed, to be honest. Like, I don't know what the outcome is for this entire refactor. Is it going to nail it? I don't expect it to nail it in one shot, but I would be extremely surprised if it does. And it's really gonna, we're gonna exercise, how good is the agent at coding, right? Is it gonna keep checking all these different things? All the frustrations that I've had with Claude Code, you've seen me live have these frustrations. We're gonna check that, all these agents do stuff and then they kind of fall apart really quickly. And we're gonna figure out what are those strengths? So far from the research perspective, I've been extremely impressed because it's the detail of level of the code that it goes into, and then grabbing the different things and kind of iterating and then like being very thorough about that. GPT-5 High is what I selected for my thing. And that's been super duper impressive. And so, yeah, this is like the web interface. I like interfaces, and it doesn't matter anywhere. Like I'll show you what this looks like in Cloud Code as well, or in the actual CLI. But for me, I think this is what you see the code droid here. And so now that we have this plan, I can actually show you how I configure the droid so that it can connect to us locally and so forth. So in my actual app here, when I configure the droid, there's a thing called the factory bridge. And so once you download the factory bridge, I don't know if they'll actually have it in here. So if we go to like dashboard, app.factory, I think it's like docs. Go to docs.factory.ai. And in here, we just download a factory bridge. So once we search for factory bridge, let's see here. Okay. I'm going to put this in the actual here as well. So in the comments, so that way y'all can get on this as well. So in factory bridge, once you install on the Mac, I guess, you're going to launch the bridge, and then there's going to be like this pairing code thing. So this is the pairing code thing that we do up here. And then it says show factory bridge. And then once we show the factory bridge, for me, it's showing in this other window. I'm going to pull it over here for y'all. It's going to give me a code, and this is the code session that I'm going to enter. And this is basically going to link the web to my local repo. So as the web is making changes, it's going to write the changes right into my actual environment of code. And that's super duper handy, especially if you're working in whatever version of the IDE is you're using. So does it use GPT-5 by default on the CLI? Kind of knows. I think it might by default, but you can do /model in the CLI and select whatever model you want. So you can select Sonnet, you can select Opus, and so forth. So why not use Context 7 MCP to integrate API docs and other documentation? Andrew, I've had really mixed results with Context 7, and I've also had mixed results just in general with MCPs. And a lot of times I'm having to fight like context management. So I'm having to sometimes it pulls in way too much context and floods that context window. So I noticed my tokens that are available goes from like 20K to 50K to 100K. So I'm like, in one request for documentation, like it already ate half my context window. Then I have to open up a new chat and then start to continue the conversation that I was already trying to do. And, at that time it's already, I want this LLM to read all my files, to keep that stuff in the context as well. And so to me, it feels like I'm having to do a lot of the context management where, I want someone like Cursor, I want someone like any other agent to manage that for me. So it's part of the reason why I'm trying to find these different types of things and why I'm pretty excited about Factory. And I've been super impressed with its planning capabilities. And I have shipped some features, but I think this is the one we're going to try to kick off. While we kick off this thing, I'm going to go ahead and let me just kind of kick this off, and I'll kind of get into this for us as well. So, all right, so what I'm going to do is just going to go ahead and go to create a new droid for my project. So it says begin your code droid. Okay, next. And then the workspace I have here selected, and then it's going to work on my local repository. And then I could just use GPT-5, or I can use Codex to implement the plan, right? So I'm going to use probably Codex to implement the plan, because Codex is supposed to run pretty autonomously. And in the toolkits here, I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of this thing here. Here we go. So at the very bottom, there's this ability here where it says toolkits, and then we can tell it to do web search. So I sometimes, if I need to do a web search or want to do that, I want to make sure it's enabled for this conversation. It's going to do a code search already, and it's going to use a terminal. So this is actually going to use my local terminal window to basically run the code commands here. So in my app, I'm going to show you the changes here. So this is a different repo I want to take a look at later. The one I'm going to take a look at here is this one. So I have a folder called Convex Transcription Migration Technical Spec. So this is the pretty big file. This is the entire spec that we're going to use. And this is about 301 lines. So this was written by Factory. And Factory's broken this up into different phases. And we're going to see if we can kind of do a refactor here. And so, so what I can do here is in the web, I could just say at file, I think, tab, and then I think it's called convex dash transcription migration spec. Okay. I want you to implement this spec. And I think we're good. So as far as, this is the other thing here, there's these triggers that will happen before I send anything off. I don't know about you, but I'm not a fan of like letting my AI agent just do everything. And I kind of want to be around to approve things until like it's kind of really proven itself, if you know what I mean. So what I want to go ahead and do here is basically tell the agent, I know I have like a lot of sun right now. I want to just basically tell the agent that like, we're just going to go ahead and create the issues here. And then we're going to go ahead and like making sure that the autonomy level is set to medium. But if you really trust it, you can say, I want to be really high autonomy, and it'll just do a lot more stuff. You can have it kill processes or do these types of things for auto accepting. But right now, I just kind of want to be participating in the process because, you know, at the very beginning, especially if you're trying to evaluate these things, you just kind of want to be a little bit more hands-on. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit send message here, and we'll let it do its thing here. So it's assembling thoughts, and we'll let it do its thing. Cool. All right, fam. Cool. So this is now taking a look at the agent's MD file. And so one of the other important things that I do in my repos is I like to have these agent MD files kind of sprinkled everywhere. So these are rules files. As it goes through specific sections of code, it's going to read those files and understand how to write software specifically for those regions. So the way that my projects are structured, when it goes to a convex folder, it's going to go to, it says low risks. This command inspects repository status, and I like that it kind of gives me this. So we're like, okay, after a certain point, you can kind of see like what's I appreciate about Factory right now is the fact that like, you know, Claude Code and all these other things, like especially Cursor, they have like YOLO modes, and those are fun. And, you know, they can do a lot of things, but sometimes you never really know. But it itself has a risk assessment for the types of tasks it's going to run. And then if it risk assessment is high because of how we set our triggers, then, you know, it's going to probably pop up something like that. So like if you want the autonomy level to be low, if the risk, you know, as the risk levels go up, it's going to keep asking you to approve basically a lot of these types of steps. And so that's kind of an example there of it doing its thing. Yeah, so clarification needed. Okay. Before I start modifying the code, can you confirm the intended rollout path? This is awesome. So I'm going to just kind of put this right here for a second. Do you want the existing to be removed entirely or gated behind the dev flag as part of the change set so that convex becomes a sole transcription path immediately? This is great. I currently want it to be gated until I go live. And then is it acceptable to add the AI SDK dependencies now, assuming we wire them? Yeah. It's perfect to add the dependencies now. That way we can check for type errors as we go along the way. Perfect. Cool. Send this along. So I don't know about you, but this is the type of like interaction I want from like a lot of my agents and stuff. And it's really interesting because I want to tell you a little bit more about like what's intrigued me about Factory AI. And that's why I'm like super excited and why they're even like a partner of the show right now is because like these guys have designed this for the future of agentic coding. And what that means is like they actually just kind of renamed their thing. They didn't name it agent. They actually just called it Droid. And the vision here is that they're basically, you're becoming a factory of AI. So like, just like the way that you would make robots to kind of do different tasks, the way that these guys are thinking about it is at the next level of saying like, if AI is going to do these different pieces of work, you know, it's not going to be one singular thing. It's going to be different actors in different positions and doing different types of things, right? So, I mean, you have a car that only drives you to places, but you don't have a car that cooks food for you, right? That could be a food truck, right? So you have these very specific types of vehicles or these very specific types of things that you have that is going to be basically executing tasks and doing things on your behalf. And so their architecture from the ground up wasn't to actually start in an integrated development environment. It was more to just start in, you know, like, let's go ahead and actually start to figure out what this new world looks like. and, have these like autonomous types of things going. So you're probably thinking a lot about like, okay, how does this really compare to Devon? How does it compare to like other types of things in this field? And I think we'll have to play around with those as well, like later on, and kind of figure out. As I played with Devon very early on, there's a lot of like instructions and different things I had to kind of follow along. And a lot of these products have continued to evolve throughout their inception. Now that the models are getting smarter, a lot of them are able to kind of run for a longer period of time. And now we're kind of hitting a wall of like basically context window management. So you're having to manage a lot of context, and that onus has usually been put back onto the developer. And as an engineer myself, I can't tell you how exhausting it is to try to keep a lot of these things in my head. And you have to be extremely focused and extremely diligent that you don't really mess any details that you're working on, because one detail that you miss can cost a company like hundreds of millions of dollars. And I've been in these really high pressure situations where I've been asked to kind of step in, and it's not that like people miss them on purpose, is that everyone is usually too busy working on other very high priority things in a company. And sometimes you just want that extra assurance that something's actually going to happen for you, and you don't want to miss, right? And so a lot of that comes back to the developer. And for me, this is extremely promising direction of where things are going, because of the fact that like these guys are really thinking through the entire like SWE workflow. And I have actually requested, folks like at Windsurf, folks at Cursor, everyone who's been making AI agents, I meet up with them and I tell them my workflows. And a lot of the times it's like the onus has been back on me as a developer. It's like, oh, wait, Ray, you should be managing your own context. You should be chunking up your requests into smaller things. And I'm like, I don't think you understand. Like, this is AI. Like, I should just be able to yap, and then it should have enough context to figure out what to do in its own code repos. So like, yeah, I mean, that's why I'm really excited about this, because of the fact that like we can go from like ideas, especially as an engineer, you can really architect what you want to do, tell it to something or someone, and then you can kind of get this going. And so what they allow you to do here is like, we haven't even talked about the other integrations that Factory has, with integrating with Linear, integrating with Slack, integrating with Notion, integrating with other different types of libraries where you actually have like lots of data about the history of your repo, about whatever's going on. It can go into those types of things and start pulling that information for context. If you have feedback from like Sentry and all those types of errors and stuff that are coming in from customers, you can actually send Factory to go into your actual commands and say, hey, generate a root cause analysis for this thing we just fixed. Or there's a customer's issues that are coming up. Can you investigate and take a look? So that's kind of the power that Factory AI has. And we may not even like have a chance to take a look at that in this stream, because I'm just kind of looking at it from a perspective of like, as I'm building right now. But I want to let you know that this is out there, and this capability is built into their stuff. And so if you haven't had a chance to try, definitely go ahead and check it out. With my link there down below, I don't get any commission from it, but you actually get 2 months for free. So you get 40 million tokens when you sign up and check out that link below. And Factory AI is actually kind enough to sponsor this entire live stream for this weekend. So today we're going to basically, you can kind of code along with me and, ask some questions and so forth. And then the other part of it is I'm going to have an interview with the founders tomorrow, which is going to be super duper awesome. So let me kind of catch up a little bit with the comments, and we're going to get this going here. So I think Riza was asking about codecs for planning. So in my experience with codecs, Riza, is that I find GPT-5 codecs extremely good at instruction following. And so that's kind of the reason why it's like for instruction following, GPT-5 codecs is going to take that plan and just kind of keep going and keep going and keep going with its own verification steps. And if you have a really good harness, like the way that like the Droid has, it should be able to take these instructions and continue to follow through with them until they're pretty much done, which is kind of wild. So 40 million tokens are awesome. Yeah, man, that's a really good deal. If you haven't had a chance to sign up, definitely go ahead and do that. Does it use GPT-5 by default? Oh yeah, so you can select adding Opus, GPT-5 or Sonnet in the Droid CLI. So yeah, in the CLI as well, you can do / model and then select the model. And you could even select the actual thinking output as well. So you don't have to tell it ultra think or anything like that. You could just say, I want you to think for a long period of time, which is, to me, it's a really great, better, more like targeted experience. Download the bridge. Okay. For starting a new session. Okay. Do you have an XJS template for speeding up the initialization of projects? If I work with Convex, Convex actually has a starter kit. So with Convex, when you initiate a Convex app, it's going to install Next.js. It's going to install Convex. It's going to do the configuration if you want to do auth as well. It will kind of build that all in. So that's part of one of Convex's command line. Sorry if you haven't answered this question, but can I use our Pro GPT account inside of this IDE? So Julio, I have some sauce for you, and I'm going to tell you, and don't tell anyone else. But this did not come from me, right? I don't want to be liable for any of this stuff. But people are saying that there is a repo, and if you check my X account, I may or may not have retweeted it. Or if you're in the Discord, check out the Discord. There is a way somebody made an app that will they have a GitHub gist that you can follow the instructions, so we can use your Claude Code Pro account or your Claude Code Max account or your ChatGPT Pro account. So that way you don't have to, spill out all the extra tokens, out of pocket, because you can either bring your own key or you can pay, I think it's like $20 a month or $40 a month here for this service. So yeah. GitMax works on local because it requires actual open browser on the machine to be installed. Yeah. Okay. The web connect in the local repository. Interesting. Yes. That's definitely really, really cool. And that's via Factory Bridge for sure. Oh, it's 6:50 a.m. there. Yeah, that's right. We started the stream at like 6:30, and this is how we do it. I like how it gives a risk factor. How long do you think it'll take us to use 20 million? Okay, Matthew, depending on how locked in you are, there's some folks here, and y'all know who you are. You're going to show up right now in the chat. And those folks, I call them the 3 Comma Club members. And my 3 Comma Club members probably already burned through the whole 20 million tokens. But just a big request like this for documentation and everything, I think maybe use up 1 million tokens, maybe not. It takes a while to kind of take that up. But within... if you're really seriously 8 hours a day agentic coding, you'll probably eat that up pretty quickly. And so that's just a FYI. Hello from Perth. Have you tried Warp or Kiro? So I didn't get access to Kiro yet, and Warp I haven't really taken a look at fully yet. I've tried, let's see, the BMAD thing. I've tried a lot of other things for documentation. And so I've come up with my own what I call like a documentation theory. And that's kind of what I'm using to generate some of my documentation. But now I'm handing that off to basically the Droid. And the Droid is actually now looking through and generating its own PRDs and stuff like that, which is what I'm even more excited about as well. So Ray, yo, how's it going, Danny? Welcome from X. I really appreciate it. So yeah, let me kind of see where are we in this whole refactoring process. So detected a long running command. So this has been running for more than 5 minutes. We'll wait up to 5 minutes. So what does it say that's been running? So, okay, I think it's already running itself. Yeah, status running. Okay, bun add AI. What command were we running that went super long? I'm just really curious. It's really crazy how we kicked off this plan. So site clarifications needed, to-do lists. Let's see where we are at in our to-do lists. This is like 10 pending progress. Like this thing is probably going to run for half the stream. And then I'm going to probably go ahead and create another app, high risk, unspecified. I think it's trying to actually get to my main repo. Let's see. Oh, there's an error. Pipe process input. Cool. Use 2 context sources. Great. Accept. Yeah. It's checking to see about like the grep, because I think these grep things may have died, and it's checking on these statuses right now. Yeah, so it's basically trying to assemble itself and fix itself. Yeah. It's like, hey, where are we? What repo are we in? So I think right now it's kind of cut in a debug loop. So I'm going to reject these, and I'm going to say, can you make sure we are in the right directory? And I think it should be. And then This is probably why I should have just ran them in here. PWD, okay. Jeez. PWD, let's see. Okay. So yeah. Cool. Let's see what's going on here. Assembling thoughts. Because, okay, it is the right directory. Nice. Please continue. Cool. Awesome. Assembling thoughts. All right, so I think it's going to check to see if I actually installed here. Awesome. Cool. I never use the web wrap properly. Yeah, you know, I'm actually going to change probably over to the CLI. I like both. And sometimes I like starting off on the web because of just the, like, especially in my planning phases, because in my planning phases, I like to read the markdown files. And so the web actually renders the markdown files on the web, and it's actually very readable there. So yeah, I mean, as much as I love to read through the terminal, that's usually for my planning phases is when I do that. And so, oh, I think this is cool. Can't change option monitor. Okay. Awesome. So it's going to run my bun add commands. Great. What happened? Okay, cool. Git status. Let's just make sure we're in the right, yeah, we're in the right branch and everything. Cool. Sweet. So it's kind of doing its own thing. But yeah, if you're building a full app with Factory AI, what workflows did you recommend for non-experts? So as far as like building a full app, I think what the first thing you want to do is kind of get together a little bit of a plan. And so what I would do is just go to like, you know, app.factory. Gosh. So let me just kind of go to here. So this is what I do. You can just talk to a code droid or not a knowledge droid or something like that, but just a code droid is fine to get started. Or just like do a new session and create a new session here. But the droids here will actually kind of help you get started. So you can just say view details and you can say start session, right? And so you can see my current sessions that are happening. But this specific one, Mike, will be the one for like implementing features, and you want to go from idea to get started here. So in this case, you can just say, hey, like I want to build, you know, an app or something like that. And I don't know, do you guys want to start one? I think, why don't we just kind of start to do that here? So let's just go and see if I can start a new session. And so we're working on cloud workspace. I don't think I have any, yeah, this is an empty workspace for any new projects. So yeah, we can do that. I don't have anything to kind of set up here. This workspace is on 0 repositories. Like I don't even have a repository set up. And so ideally for me, I usually like to start my projects with some type of base template. So if you already know like what type of technology stack you want to start with, I think that's probably the best way to go, to be honest, because you're going to already include a lot of things that you're doing. So one of my favorite stacks is, let's see, github.com/ on my GitHub, I have one called the Elite Convex Next Starter Kit. So from here, this is the one that I have that basically has everything set up for Next.js. You also have like clerk authentication. It also has clerk billing. So the billing actually integrates Stripe with this. And they also have the Convex real-time database. And this is a pretty sweet stack. So this is from my friend Artem. And I had him on a live stream. We kind of did cover this together. But this is basically the site that you have. So it comes with the full-on dashboard, landing page, and everything. And then from here, you know, if you want to have like a payment-gated type of thing, you can kind of do that. If you're starting off with this and then you start to ask questions saying, you know, I want to build something based off of this, then this is probably your best way to kind of get going as far as planning. So then you can start with either with a code droid, or you can probably start off with like a different droid here. So you can start off with like a knowledge droid, or you can, you know, something that like product droids. So you can plan the features and create this one. So this might be the one you want to start out with to create like PRDs, user stories, and different types of things. So if you're not really sure kind of like where you want to take it, this could be really interesting for you. But by default, if you just start out with the regular, even in the command line, if you just ask it, you know, I want to start off this idea and I want to see if I can build it here, this would be kind of really, really cool. So that's probably like the best way to get started if you're doing that type of thing. So that way you kind of get going. So Yeah, let me go ahead and see if I can kind of get this set up here for you. So let's see here. So where are we in our progress so far? So this is now, okay, so this is basically now continued the implementation plan. So this is kind of going through here and it's grabbing my different files. So while that's going, I want to take you to a different app while this is going, and we can kind of see if we can kind of ship some features right away. Because this refactor is going to take a long ass time. And by the end of the stream, like it'd be kind of fire if it's actually able to do the whole thing, if you know what I mean. So, all right. So the other project that I'm working on, and if you haven't been aware of this, is called I forked this project from Ross Mike. It's called DripMeOut. And so this one here will basically allow you to take a photo, and it's going to use the new Nano Banana model. And basically what it will do is it transforms the photo. So that way you can kind of see, you know, yourself like in like a 2D anime type of style. So in here, let me see if I can kind of load some of the images here. Is it going to load them? Yes. Okay. So what I did is I took a photo of myself with my paddle from the paddleboard, and you can kind of see how like the Nano Banana automatically generates this type of cool little type of thing here. And I took a picture of my dog, and it got the scarf and kind of added this really cool drawing to it. So to me, it feels like it's really kind of coming to life here. And so it's, you know, whatever you have that's in real life, it'll basically just kind of add some other things. I was wearing a Vision Pro, and I kind of drew this type of thing in here. So if we say sign in to create yours, we're going to sign into the app. And so this is a really fun app here to kind of play around with. And I thought, you know, it'd be really cool to kind of maybe add some features. And I think the really cool thing here is like, can we actually include and add Polar? So Polar is a payment processing platform that we can use. I like it better than Stripe because of how fast it is to set up. And this has been something I wanted to add to my app. And I'm wondering, can the Droid figure this stuff out, right? Like if I just tell it I want to add Polar, give it the docs, is it going to be smart enough to know everything that we should be doing? Because my gut instinct right now is to just, you know, go do a lot of research and give it all the different docs and everything like that. But can I just give it something very high level, and can it just vibe its way in? And my thinking is it probably could. And I think we're going to try to see if we can put it to the test here. And so if you're all down to watch this, make sure to check out, you know, Factory AI. And so they are actually sponsoring this entire live stream. And I kind of wanted to let you know about that if you're just tuning in. And you can actually get your 2 free months of using that, or up to 40 million tokens down below. So all you have to do is just scan that QR code, or just hit rfer.me/Refactory. And that's going to take you directly to the sign up, and the promo code will already be applied for you. So that way, when you sign up, you get those credits and kind of get rolling with me. So I encourage you to try this stuff out as part of the partnership and this type of thing. Like I really believe this is going to be like kind of the future of where the AI agents are going to be going. And right now, in its current form, you know, it's already doing quite a bit. And these guys already started in the enterprise space. So they're now kind of have opened this up this week for the general public. And so, yeah, if you haven't had a chance, go ahead and check that out. And we're going to go ahead and see if we can add some features and see if we can add payments here. So let's go ahead and see if we can kind of get that going for a bit. And that's there. So, okay. So this is the Droids thing that we're talking about. Okay. And so I have the repo pulled up, and just kind of checking back in on the other guy that we got going here. It's still kind of going. This is pretty nice. It hasn't really asked me for any types of questions and stuff. And we can already see that the code diffs are already starting to roll into my my actual Ray Transcribes app. So the next app that we're going to go to is called that DripMeOut. That's the one that we're talking about there. And so what I had it do earlier for me was I actually had it do some type of refactoring for me. And what I was working on was the capability of like having the users be able to delete some of the images. So I think I'm still running this app. I'm going to restart it for y'all so you can see. So I'm running this on localhost 3000, surprise, surprise. And so in here, I'm just going to redo this here. So now when users upload the image, they should have the ability to delete them. So if they want to go ahead and delete, now there's like a danger zone here. And so you can go ahead and do that. So like, for example, you know, like let's go back to a load more type of thing. So if I kind of keep loading more down, and like for this one, let's just say I wanted to delete this one here, right? It's like, I don't, you know, this is cool, this is fun, but it's not so cool. So I hit delete image, now it deletes it and it's gone, you know? And so you can kind of see there's a bug here because like, no, it's gone. Yeah, it's gone. Cool. Yeah, sweet. So like, oh my God, it works best thing ever. So if I delete this one, sweet, now it's gone. So yeah, that's one of the features I added last night, you know, as I was kind of using this here. And this is using the factory command line. So once we have the plugin installed, I just click factory. And this is kind of me explaining things up here via the command line. I find using the command line to be really smooth and easy. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is going to check these changes in because I like them so much. And then we're going to go ahead and commit them here and sync those changes over. Okay. So the next thing I think I want to do feature wise was to say that we want to add polar. So I'm going to go ahead and create a plan here. So if I do slash, these are the different slash commands that we have. And I hit Command J, this will basically remove this type of thing here. And let me kind of spread this out a little bit so y'all can see a little bit more. Okay. So if I do slash new, so this is going to start a new session and clear all the previous contexts. Okay. And so for example, like if I close this whole thing here, it says session created, and it's going to terminate the process. In order for us to get to factory, like it says run factory droid, you see these little icons are installed. It's because we have the actual droid plugin installed from this. So once we do that, basically all it does is just run droid in the command line. If you're wondering what's kind of going on there. So once this is running, this says GPT-5 high. So if I do slash model, the model operator selects switch mode quickly. So here we can select the different model that we want. So if I wanted Sonnet 4, I can tell it high, low, or medium reasoning. That way you don't have to go through this song and dance of like, make sure you ultra think, put your head on your face and do this funny dance, right? So that's kind of where you're thinking here. So I go model, and then I want to change it back to like GPT-5, and I want to change it to high. So I want to use the high maybe for the planning part, or maybe I just want to use Opus. So I say model. And then I want to use like Opus for the planning, right? So in this planning type of thing, let's just go ahead and keep the reasoning effort high. So this is a premium model, and they're going to charge like the premium prices. So with that, I'm going to just like, I can select Opus if I wanted to use this for my app. If you have your own keys, you can bring your own keys as well. So that way you don't have to, once you run out of tokens or whatever, you can kind of switch over to that type of thing. So slash model. I think I like GPT-5 high, to be honest, because of how good it's been for me. And what we're going to go ahead and do is I'm going to do some quick research here on the Polar docs. And so, polar.sh docs for, docs, I think it's docs.polar.sh. Yeah. Okay. So this actually has a copy page and everything. And so I want to see if it can actually kind of introduction, what is Polar? And I think there's like a migrate to Polar products. There should be like a getting started guides. So getting started. So get started, create product variants, disable subscription changes in customer portal, allow, okay. So once we've created the variants, I think there's a LLM text.full support. Okay. So I'm going to give it a couple different links, and we're just going to see how it does, because this is a really long LLM.txt, and I'm wondering to see how it's going to actually parse it. And so, yeah, this is kind of what I'm going to leave to factory to figure out. So I now want you to help me generate a plan or PRD so that we can implement polar.sh for payments for my app. I want users to be able to pay $5 and get so many credits to be able to generate images for my app. Here is some of the documentation that you can kind of review to help with this task. And then what I want to do is also go back to Polar and go to the docs. Oops. Docs here. And what I want to do is introduction. There should be one that actually tells us about introduction, contact support dashboard, authentication, sandbox environments. Okay. I think I'll start it with this, but then I'll also say, you should be able to go to the migrate to Polar. Docs.polar guides. Okay. Base URL. Okay. And you should be able to use the web to search for the Polar docs. And here is the entry point for their API. And And then I asked documentation. So my documentation includes this README that I want you to review so that we can put the plan into this directory. And once we have the plan sorted out, from there, we're going to go ahead and proceed with the implementation. But the first phase here is just to make sure that we have our plan nailed down. And I want you to review my code. Okay. So now it's going to go ahead and see if we can create a feature. And this is using the command line. So if you want to get here, if you don't have this plugin installed, all you can do is just open a new terminal window, just type in Droid, and then you can start to have this conversation. And so my goal here is to basically see if we can actually have Factory AI first create a plan for us. And when it creates that plan, it's going to be able to, like have this conversation with me here through the command line. And then once we have that conversation, then we should be able to kind of watch it kind of do its thinking to generate that big PRD file. And then once we have that PRD file, then we're going to basically hand that off to the Droid for like a new Droid to kind of do that type of thing here. So draft. Okay, so it's creating a plan right now. So wow, now we're currently watching this type of thing. So let me catch up with the comments. Let's see. How many tokens of Factory have you consumed for this project or session? Yeah, I'll actually do that right now so I can kind of see for the cost. Yeah. Fire. CLI fatigue is real. What are we cooking today? Lots of stuff that we're cooking right now. We're cooking a whole bunch of things. Yeah. Yo, big shout out to Mr. Frank. If I understand correctly, you don't have to find frameworks like BMAD useful, perhaps because you're an expert. For a non-coder, they can be essential for creating even just prototypes without tools like V0. Yeah, I think so too. I think for me, a lot of the times is that I had issues with like context management, Michele, or Michaele. And the issues for me were like, when I was trying to manage the context, sometimes it just got really out of hand. And I would basically just type in, too much for some of these types of things, or it would use up a lot of tokens just trying to generate a simple plan. And so we're going to see how this performs here because there's a lot of different files and requests here. And I'm really curious to see like the output here. The other thing too that I like to do with my plans is like, I got to make sure they're human readable. Sometimes if there's way too many tasks and subtasks, and then I'm having to manage each of them to make sure they got executed or done, is also pretty exhausting too. The more I have to do different / commands to change over to these different personas and then switch back and forth, kind of makes it a little bit more exhausting. So I like this just one method of like, here's what I want, like go, and making sure that I kind of stay on top of it. So that's kind of where I was thinking with this. So willing to show us your token usage and settings. Okay, cool. Yeah, let me see if I can take a look at that and see how much it's consumed because I'm really curious too about how much I've used. I'm a designer, communique, zero experience. Okay, yeah. I could definitely see. Yeah, especially if you were trying to figure this out. Even if you know how to develop software because it follows the well-established principles. Yes, Chris. I think it's like it's true about like this type of thing, but in my experience, I've noticed it kind of like overplan, and a lot of times it's more of like, your goals, your execution. Can you create enough to get to like the first stopping point so you can make sure that everything's on point and then kind of move on there forward? And especially with these types of developments, if you have like already an established company, sometimes it's easier to like go through those established methods. And that's what's really interesting as far as like trying to take a look at that there. And it'd be interesting to kind of compare BMAD versus like this Droid and see what the performance is, or if you use them both because they're technically compatible. So here's the Polar Payments credit spec. So plan is ready for approval. So there's a data model, add context tables, checkout flow, client conforms, client secrets, add a post Polar webhook into the HTTPS. Okay, this looks pretty good. Gating to require and automatically decrement credits. Sweet. Show a balance of buy credits from button triggers, Polar access, Polar ID, Polar webhook secret, credit pack amount credits, and credit pack quantity. So I said I want to, let's keep iterating on spec. As far as the credit pack amount and the credit pack quantity, I want to put these into the admin interface because of the way that Convex works, everything is reactive. So any changes I make on the back end for like defaults and stuff, it'd just be easier for the admin to kind of make sure that they can administer that. And then, so the credits, $5 per proposed 50. I think for $5, we should just give them $4.20. Refund 1 credit on the final failure. Yes. If there are failures, we should always refund the credit. Free trial amount on first sign in. For the free trial, yeah, I want to do 10 images for free. Okay. Let's go ahead and see if we can continue iterating on this plan. It's pretty cool. CLI agents are garbo though, to be honest. Well, which CLI agents have you used? I'm really curious. Tutorial Droid is a great starter to get the lay of the land. Yes. Yeah, there is a tutorial Droid. I forgot to tell you guys about that. But yes, you guys are already on it. Oh, why is CLI even a trend? CLI is a trend for a lot of different reasons, especially for existing developers. It's kind of like their home base. And so, I don't know, like if you've always worked in there, that's kind of... the other part of like the home base, why it's home base is because of the composability. So if you have existing scripts that you already have as part of your processes, they can now execute within those types of environments. So if you have these setup scripts, or if you're a DevOps person, you're basically manipulating, it could be part of your pipeline. So, if you have a build system that kicks off as part of the build system when you're building software for like a large company or something like that, if it's running off and kicking off a process to read logs, now you can kick off like an automated command line with some type of AI intelligence inside of it, and it can parse the logs in real time, and it can be reactive just based off of human instructions. So you can say, this happened a lot at this company I used to work for in the Valley. And so if you're when you're building software for thousands of projects, one failure somewhere can kind of go unnoticed, but then it can kind of stop the entire pipeline later on. So as every hour that you're burning 1,000, 10,000, 20,000 plus engineering hours or more across the world because of, someone wasn't awake to actually look at a specific log file and just, hit a button or something to continue off the build process, right? And so a lot of these types of things can now be kind of looked at by AI agents. And so the command line interface for these types of people make it so that they can have that composability. And right now we're in that first phase of like, we want to make sure that these things actually work and don't destroy things. So there's a lot of these types of like, hey, we're going to stop this thing to make sure a human's intervening before we do something critical here, because, it could take something out by accident, right? So that's kind of where we are at. And that's part of the reason why CLI is exciting for like the developer space, especially people who have these existing things. So if you have a smart agent like this that's currently running and you start to give it like, access to your repo, it can do some really interesting stuff. Not only that, but Cloud Code and all these different types of things. So yeah, definitely start with factory product for Droid planning made for that. Okay, or is it necessary anymore? I think BMAT is great for Codex because it's so good at following instructions. Exactly. Yeah. How was login implemented in DripMeOut? Jack, the login was implemented with Clerk, and I have a live stream earlier in far as like how I did the implementation. So I can probably point to that. Let me kind of fix my camera settings, make sure that I'm okay, because I'm in Hawaii, and so the sun is really coming in super bright, and making sure I get that situated. All right, much better. Cool. Yay. Yeah, I'll probably pull a blind down if it gets too bright, but I think this is really cool. This is a really fun way to build software in the sun. All right, so let's see. Got it. I updated the PRD to reflect the admin building contacts. Great. The spec file's here. Awesome. So let's go ahead and take a look at the spec. So this is the entire spec file. Wow. And it even broke it up in phases. So foundations, sandbox. Wow. And then we have the generation gating, which is going to do this here. And then the UX admin. And then now we have the testing and verification. So that use the Polar Sandbox for tests for the webhook idempotency. Awesome. Manual end-to-end, purchase $5 pack with test cards, credit increased. And then security violations, never expose OAuth to the client, server only, verify, click web. This is fire. This is crazy. It even references the API docs. Let's go. Damn. This is fire. Okay. Wow. So here's the architecture overview. So this is a new table, users accounts, new table for payments, new table for billing settings. It keeps this as is. Whoa. Okay. So the key code touch points for the implementation. So the convex schema is here. Now we have a checkout session creator and verify signature and grant credits. And then gate the upload schedule generation with auth plus atomic credit decrement and generate TS, refund one credit on final failure. Minimum admin UI extension. Bro, this is crazy. Let me go ahead and just check these changes in. So I want to make sure, yeah, I'm on this branch. Okay. So now we have Polar payments. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and check this plan in to make sure I just have it in my repo. And then we're just going to let it rip. This is crazy. So if I do /cost, I think, is that what's going to show us the cost? So this plan basically used up 182,000 tokens. So the input was 83,000. The cache was 385. And so, yeah, that's how many tokens this one used up. That's interesting. Synced. So let's go ahead and do that there. Okay, cool. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is just going to say, okay, shall I proceed with phase one? Yeah. Yes, please go ahead and proceed with phase one in Sandbox. Let's go. So yeah, this should be able to take my plan here and start cooking with GPT-5 High. That's so crazy. Okay. Let's see. Is it better than Codex? I don't know what's going on here. What's going on here is that we're basically using Droid to like facilitate the planning here and then implementing the feature as well. So in this current project, what I'm doing is I'm going to add a new feature, which is basically using Polar for payments. So I gave it the documentation, which is the llms.txt file. I gave it the API spec, document. And then I also gave it my repo, and that's kind of what it's kind of searching through right now. And we're using the factory command line interface for it to kind of read through everything. And once it generated the plan, it gave me an initial spec of what we're doing. And I said, let's go ahead and just make a little bit more changes. I just want to have some fun with it. For $5, you should get 420 credits because haha. And just using the nano banana model. And then on top of that, like if there's a failure, we want to refund them. Yes. And also for the free trial, instead of 3, I want to have 10. So we got that kind of clarified, and it's basically dumped the plan in my little documentation folder that I have here on the side. And then once that's kind of set up, we're basically now continuing to see how the Droid will implement a feature through this chat window. So in terms of like the Codex CLI, it'd be interesting to see how this performs. But the promise here is that the droids themselves take on these different personas for planning, for executing code, for reading through your stuff. And the reason why this is really interesting is the fact that they scored the highest on Terminal Bench. So out of all of the different droids that have been running, they're actually the leaders here. So with Opus 4.1, they scored the highest, GPT-5, Sonnet 4, compared to like Warp, Obi-Wan, like Goose and so forth. So as you can kind of see, Codex CLI scored 42.8% using GPT-5 Codex. So like these guys are actually way up there in terms of comparatively for those things. And this is all broken down. So they're basically agentic driven, and they do their own context management, but their own context management is actually proving to be outsmarting a lot of the existing stuff that's, like Codex CLI and the other competitors like Claude Code as well. And so that's why this is really interesting. But on top of that are the capabilities of, it's not tied to an IDE, right? So you can switch your IDEs, you can go on the web, it does the research for you, and it does a lot of other things like planning and so forth. So part of what I like about it is like that you can technically refactor things. It doesn't matter like what specific code. It's not like, because of its ability to do this agentic planning, that's kind of what's driving a lot of this harness here. So on the web, you can choose different things like whether you want to code, whether you want to do planning, you just hit plan. If you just want to like maintain an app, you can do reliability, and you can actually feed it in. You can actually connect this directly to Sentry. You can connect this to different things saying, hey, customers are reporting, or I'm seeing higher alerts. Can you go ahead and take a look and view the details? And so basically, if you just kind of kick off that and say, I want you to analyze what's going on with my error logs, you can either do it through the web or just over the CLI, just give it this instructions. You don't have to say use reliability droid. You can just actually just tell it directly what you want. And so their agent called the Droid is smart enough to be able to figure out these types of things. And so that's kind of the promise here. And let's see. And so, yeah, let's see where we're kind of coming back here. So yeah, fun thing, set up Reaper prompt as a Droid MCP server and use Reaper prompt. Yeah, that's going to be the advanced mode. And I think I want to get into that for sure. Get max. I think that'd be really cool. Yes. Yeah. So let me just make sure I'm kind of following along the plan. So now basically what it's doing for us is getting Polar set up, like Polar for payments, polar.sh. And what it's doing right now, it's added the schema to Convex. Now it's going through these types of things. It's just currently applying patches. It's pretty crazy how it's pretty much just implementing the code as we go, which is always really, really fun. So one-off question, what kind of note-taking app are you using for documentation, architecture, maybe design? So right now, all I'm using is basically Git and Markdown. So I have this convention here, and I currently have like a README file. So this README file is what I'm passing into the agent every single time. And so with this file, as you can kind of see, like I have the directory structure, the documentation standards, like what a general like, PRD or basic kind of summary of things should be looking like. And so this should also generate a spec file so we can track the progress. A lot of this times, like I was using this as an intermediate before Factory came out because I wanted my own process of managing these types of life cycles. But in software engineering life cycles, you also have testing, you also have debugging, you also have these other types of things that you do. And so this started out as a simple lightweight thing for me to kind of start my own, process. Like I want to document these things. Once I generate the spec, I want to see how far the agents are doing their tasks. And then when Codex came along, once I started giving it my spec files, Codex is really good at following them, right? So now we have Factory. And so Factory, instead of me like doing a lot of that work now, I'm just kind of saying, here's a general template of what I'm using, but like this is the feature that I want to develop. Can you help me go grab the files and give me that type of thing? It generates that file and I just say basically go cook, right? So now we're letting it do its thing and I'm leveraging, the models, the intelligence and their harness, it's called the Droid, to kind of take over these types of tasks. So that's kind of like a high level summary. I have a 1-to-1 thing. I think I have like one more slot left for the Ray Fernando 1337 thing. There's a link in the description, but right now I'm probably going to just make a pause for now because I'm going to be traveling in the next couple of weeks. But when I get back in October, I'm going to have another offer that's going to be available for those folks who want to kind of check that out. So, but yeah, if you want to check it out, there's also like the Discord links below if you want to check that. But I also wanted to let you guys know that this actual stream is actually completely sponsored by Factory AI. And they're the ones who are like I'm partnering with them because I really believe and I like where they're going. I really believe this is actually going to be the future of agentic coding. Not only me, but like the VC money that's been backing them, which has been insanely crazy. Ben from Ben's Bytes, if you don't know Ben Tossel, I think he's also like invested, but he's also kind of joined their team to be an evangelist for them. And I can see why, because it's just so amazing. And like this is, to me, I feel like this is the direction all these other agents should be going into, if you know what I mean. So these guys are ahead of the curve and you can get access just by, typing in rfer.me/factory or scanning this QR code below to get your account created there. So you had a chance to do that. So, okay, so let's see. Any advanced tutorials for Cursor Cloud Code that you've found to be super relatable till this date? What's funny? As soon as you create a tutorial, like it takes you like a month to do, like it's already out of date because of so much stuff that changes. So I'm going to try to go live more often so that way we can kind of go through things. So if you have any questions, definitely swing by for that. There's a whole over. Oh yeah, I think we're talking about the developer stuff as well. That video with the young lady. Yeah. Safina's cooked. If you haven't seen that video with Design with V0, go check that out. Amazing. So much sauce in terms of like the AI gateway from Vercel, generating images with Nano Banana, all that cool stuff. So actually, That's what I should do. Is I should convert my app to the AI gateway that she talked about and let the droid do that, because that's another thing. Um, I'm realizing all these tasks that I want to get done inside of my head, instead of kind of babysitting them, I'm going to just hand them off to the droids and let them cook, right? That's actually really awesome. Yeah, CLI is closer to the sauce. Yeah. Okay. Where are we with this phase one here? So the phase one for the sandbox has now been implemented. I've added polar payments, convex schema, server APIs. Jesus, let's go. So the next steps are required to test. So the polar access token, polar product ID, polar env sandbox, and then polar webhook secret. If polar sandbox create the price and add a webhook pointing to your convex deployment. Oh my gosh. Install the dependencies to pull. Wow. Are we already? Damn, this is crazy. Let me take a look at the code here. This is so wild. All right. So we have this new billing TypeScript file in my convex database. This is hot. Okay. Now we have a users thing here. And then what else do we have up here? We have payments. Wow. Okay. So if we have the sandbox environment variable, it's going to switch from that production to dev. Let's go. Okay. Nice. And then what else do we have here? Package.json. Okay. Let me just go ahead and get this kicked off. So I'm going to do this. Oops. Okay. Control C. Let's see. Bonx. Let's see. Bun install. Should have installed everything, but I don't think so. Okay. What did I have to install? Oh, the AI SDK. Okay, cool. Bun x convex dev. I think it's going to fail. Okay. So let me just go ahead and set up the env vars. So polar access token, polar product ID, and where are these installed? Let me just double check these here. So this is in payments. So because this is currently in convex, in my convex database, I just have to add this as an access token on convex, not in my local environment, which is pretty cool. And then where's the polar product ID? Okay. Same thing here. Yeah. So I have to put this in and this is in the payments here. Okay. This is good. And then what else? Polar env. I think this is the same thing as well. So that all goes into convex. This is awesome. Oops. Let me just kind of take this here. Let's see. And then the webhook as well. Okay, cool. So my webhook is my sandbox thing. And so this is going to create this little thing here. And then we're basically going to take a look at the secret and then verified. I'm just kind of reviewing the code because I'm really curious to see what it's doing. Wow. Okay. And then from there in the polar sandbox, create the thing. Okay, cool. That's awesome. Yeah, let me go ahead and open up another window here so we'll see what's going on. All right. So we have this here. And what I'm going to go ahead and do is just kind of pull this window off to the side just to make sure other credentials and things don't get exposed. So I go sandbox.polar.sh. And then if I go here, I should basically have this like sandbox environment. So when you go to sandbox.polar.sh, this is the sandbox environment, and this changes here basically do not affect any like payments and stuff like that. And so what I can do is just go to products, and then like if I go like hit new product here, I can just say, let's see, AI, no, okay, like anime studio credits, 20 credits. Okay. Get started with anime studio. Let's see. This is a one-time purchase. Fixed price. Okay. Select the price. Pay what you want. Yes. Fixed price. Okay. $5. 5. Okay. Let's see. Meter credits. Ooh. Cool. Created benefits will be available for use in all your products for the organization. Oh, that's cool. Okay. So I could just say 420 credits. All right. So theoretically, I should be able to use Polar's like credit metering here so that, right? Create, okay. Create meter. Oh, okay. Ah, okay. 420 credits. Okay, counts. Yes. Name. Specify how events are filtered before they are aggregated. Okay. Name. Let's see. Benefit granted. Actually, you know what I'll do? I'll keep it simpler. I'll have my app keep track of that. Yeah, I think that'll just be easier. So they'll just buy it and then I'll just know that they bought it from Polar and then I'll just grant them the credits in my app. But this is something I'll kind of want to look into a little bit later. I have to use the restroom too. And so, okay, so this is a copy product. Okay, so now I have a product ID and I have to get all these different types of things set up in my app. So that's going to be something we're going to get set up here, but it just kind of check back in on the progress here. So what I want to go ahead and do is Polar Access Token and convex schema. So in my convex database, it should be dashboard.convex.dev. And so in my database here, I should be able to add these tokens that they're talking about. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is just log in with Google here and kind of catch up a little bit here. So what I'm basically doing right now is that what we've done is we've taken the existing app, which you can take a photo of me, and it basically is going to add like a 2D drawing to a specific item in the photo. And it's using the Nano Banana image model. And so what I'm using here for payments is Polar. And so I've basically given the Droid, I said, here, can you generate a plan for this? It did. And then it's implementing it in phases. So the first phase is to set up, all the dependencies and to make sure that we can kind of get this set up with Polar. And that's what we're doing right now. And then now what we're doing is grabbing the actual API keys from Polar in the sandbox. So that way someone can just pay $5 and then they'll start to actually, use my app, and then they'll be payment gated type of thing. And then if they sign up, they get 10 free credits, which would be really, really cool. So, this is going to be a really fun way to kind of do that and to kind of test things out. So what I have here is basically my convex database. And I think the app is called DripMeOut here in production. And then as far as like the settings, I'm going to go to the environment variables. And this is where I'm going to add that different environment variables. So the ones I need to add here are going to be Polar Access Token. And so I'm just going to maybe split this to the side a little bit. Split a couple of these to the side so that way we have them here. And so I think it's Polar Access Token. And then I also have, where did you go? Okay. Polar Access Token, Polar Product ID. YOLO. Polar Product ID. And then Polar EMV equals sandbox. And then what else is the other one? Polar webhook secret. Okay. I had an extra dot. Okay. So the Polar Access Token would be granted from, I think, in here. And so if I go into settings, I should be able to grab the access token somewhere. So new token. So if you don't have any new tokens, you can do this. And so I'm going to be like access. And so these are all the scopes that I have. So I'm going to basically copy this and say, I don't like when I generate access tokens, I don't know about you, but like, I don't like to just YOLO all of the different options, because if that key does get leaked, you don't want someone to kind of just go crazy with all your different options, like, rewriting stuff. So it's always a good idea to just only select what you need. So I'm just copying everything here. And I'm going to just paste it in here and saying, I'm going to generate a Polar Access Token, and here are the current scopes. Can you tell me which ones we need for this app? I'm just going to paste the scopes in, and it's doing its thing here. So that way we do that. I would get eye strains in seconds with that sun blasting. Isn't it too early in Hawaii? Yeah, it was like 6:30 a.m. when I got started, by the way. So let's go. I'm way behind in the comments, by the way. What do you think about factory performance so far? Speed, accuracy, have you noticed? I think what I like when I was using it earlier, it's like for the planning phases, like has been so amazing because I spend a lot of time on planning. And I think anyone who's serious about engineering, especially when you work a lot with architectures, is like, you want to make sure that you have the right plans in place because that's what's going to hold things accountable, not only for you, but for your AI agents. So for the droids for planning has been just immensely super helpful. And, you know, I've been trying to make my own planning little documentation things. So the fact that Factories already kind of has been doing this, especially with coding, and then now it's kind of making that available is really interesting. And that's kind of what we're really kind of pushing to the limits here. And then the second part of it is just the implementation. So that's what's up. Yeah. Looks promising so far. I like the documentation. Yeah. It's very accurate. Speed is average, but you'll save time in digging and types. Yeah. Most accurate CLI agent I've used for sure. So you're refactoring your code base. Yes, File Reaper. Ray Transcribes is currently being refactored right now in the background. And yeah, that's what's up. I think you guys were talking about the design one. Yeah. Let's go see what we're here. So this came back to us and it says, I'm just going to quit these for now and then make sure we have enough space to read this thing. Scroll to the bottom. Wow. Okay. So these are the things I pasted in. So it says minimal to run our phase 1 flow. So checkout to write, read session. Let me kind of move this to the side. Okay. So in order for us, so we need just checkouts right. So create a checkout session with, so that's the only one we need. Okay, so checkouts right. That's technically the only one we need. Optional are for admin use for like checkouts read, orders. Yeah, I'm going to do these ones like checkouts read because I do have an admin UI. Server side verification loops beyond. So yeah, that's for the checkouts read, orders read. Let's see, orders read. And then what else? Webhooks read. So manage webhook endpoints, not needed if you configure in the dashboard. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to do that. Products read and write. So list validate product IDs instead of hard coding via env. Yeah, I like that as well. Products read. Yeah, this is actually probably where I'm going to end up going to. Customers read. Inspect Polar customer records by external ID. I don't need this right now, but maybe I'll add this a little bit later because not needed for plan benefits customer portal. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. Because Polar has their own customer portal. So that's what I plan to use anyways. And that's probably why I'm going to stick with this. So as of now, I'm just going to go ahead and create. So when I create this, I think theoretically, I'm just going to see if I get, oh, my blur is not working right now. So I'm going to switch to this camera here. So that way we have this. So I'm going to create this access token and it's probably going to expose a key here. And with this key, I'm going to put it into convex. So that way I have it here. And then I'm going to go ahead and save all for now. Okay. So I just want to make sure I didn't expose the key. And so we're back here. So I put the Polar access token in here that it generated from here. And before I switch back, I'm going to make sure that the key is no longer visible. And so copy the access token, keep it somewhere safe. And once I did, I'm just going to go back to here and go back to general. So now the key is actually down here below. So the key was available and it'll actually say copy if you need a copy and so forth. And then, so that's kind of that setup there. And so that's the Polar access token and then Polar EMV. I think this is the one where we're doing sandbox. And then the product ID is the one that we need to grab. So this is the one that I was going to grab from Polar. And so if we go back to products and we go to the Anime Studio credits, the product ID should just be right up here. It says copy product ID. And then we're going to put that in here. Paste, save. Great. And then now I just need to have the webhook secret. So for the webhook secret, we're just going to go to settings, webhooks, add endpoint. So this is where it gets really tricky. So like, what is the actual URL that we're going to use and how is this going to work with convex? So I want to teach you something a little bit real quick about convex. And the way that convex works is that they have in their URLs schemes here, they have a thing, if it goes show development credentials, is it environment variables? Yeah, show development credentials. They have an HTTP actions URL. So that's the one that we're going to use for the URL. And so you want to grab this thing here, copy this URL, and then you want to paste this into the webhook. So boom, we're here. So that's the site they're going to use. And then we need the remaining parts so that convex can consume this type of thing. So in the code that they're talking about for our actions, where they store that is in convex/http.ts. And in this file here, what they do is they'll have these different routes. So the routes that they have for our webhook that we want is this one here. It says polar webhook sandbox production. So we're going to copy this part /polar/webhook. And that's the part we're going to actually put into the end of this type of thing. So since there's already a slash here, I'm going to just hit delete it, but it should look basically something like this. So you'll see /polar/webhook. Now that we have that type of thing, we're going to select a format. So we just do raw, which is fine. And then I'm going to go ahead and copy these events, right? Like, hey, which events should I use for the webhook? It's going to just go back over here to Droid and we'll be like, okay, I'm setting up the webhook inside of Polar and I'm wondering which events should I be listening for. I'm going to go ahead and undo that because it actually put it, my cursor was actually up here. My bad. Let's see, can undo. Okay, cool. And yeah, so there's a couple of ways I'm just going to paste this in here, but I'm going to show you, if you look in here, it's going to show you /polar/webhook. And then we're going to see what events they're already going to be listening for. So the events/any, but like right now, we don't actually have the, let's see, validation events. So it's going to literally just take any event and process it. Interesting. Order updated. And I think it's just, all it is just order updated, right? So I just want to make sure. So here are the event types. Which event types should we be selecting in the Polar dashboard? So I'm giving it all these different events. And I think it's just going to be order-updated because that's all I see there. But it could be something else that we want in the future as well. So I'm just going to let the Droid kind of think for itself there. Yesterday, I'd managed to make codecs orchestrate 15 different codec sessions. Holy smokes. And examine the whole convex code, which is very complicated. I wonder if you've tried that, Fernando. I haven't gone that crazy yet, but yeah. Why not use Stripe, or did I miss the reason? I don't mind using Stripe, to be honest, but the biggest reason for using Polar is the fact that you have them as a merchant of record. And that's a little bit different. Polar does sit on top of Stripe right now, and they also have other payment providers that they're actually rolling in as we speak. But the difference here is the tax collection purposes. So if I get customers in Europe, they're going to be the ones that are actually dealing with all the taxes and everything like that. So they charge an extra percentage fee on top of everything. And so for me, that fee and everything, that headache is totally worth it because I don't have to really think about it. Because once you reach a certain threshold of sales in a different country or even in a different state, you have to file taxes on that specific thing. So for me, it just kind of uncomplicates things, especially as a builder, and I'm trying to do content and move super fast. So yeah, why not use convex CLI and make the Droid agent use the convex CLI? Yes, I think that's a better idea, CG Labs. But I also think that part of it is I want to kind of show some folks who are using convex, because there's some new folks using convex. And I think sometimes it's not really clear what is happening and where those types of things are going. So that's actually a great call out, CG Labs. And I think I'll definitely do that in the future. So just make it easier. So yes. So, okay, let's go ahead and take a look here. So it says, so all we do is order updated. That's our webhook handles. Optional is order paid if you want to dedicated event for successful payments, not required since order updated covers it. And then order refunded if you implemented credit reservation for refunds. Okay. Skip checkout and other events for this flow. Okay, cool. So I think we're just going to stick with that one thing just to make it simple here. And yeah, order updated. So I'm going to hit create. So once I hit create, it should generate this, basically it's going to generate this like webhook secret. And that's the thing that I want to do here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. I'm basically doing it off camera so that I don't expose the secret. And so I'm going to go ahead and hit copy secret up here. And so, yeah, I used to have my little blur thing working, but that's currently not working. I have to remap my thing. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this secret here and then go back to my actual data settings, environment variables. So in my environment variables right now, what I have set up is the webhook secret. And so this is where it says Polar webhook secret. So this is secret here. And what I'm going to go ahead and do is just paste that secret back in here. So I'm going to go ahead and paste that in here and hit save. And it should basically now kind of like blur it out and everything. And then what I'm going to go ahead and do is go back to the other place here. And so that way we can kind of take a look. So in here, what I'm going to go ahead and do is make sure that my secret's no longer visible for my webhook, and then kind of come back. Okay, cool. So if I go to details, does it show the secret? Oh, it will always show the secret. Okay, maybe, yeah, I don't want to expose that. Okay, so in convex, or in Polar, I have this webhook set up now, and theoretically we should basically be set now. So we have all of our different stuff that's here, the access token, the environment, the product ID, the Polar webhook secret. And so now we're basically ready for the next phase of development. So this is here. And before we proceed, I want to make sure that different type issues are resolved. So like I'm just going to tell it, before we proceed, I want to make sure the type issues are solved. One way of doing that is by running, and then I'm going to tell it bonx convex dev -s once, I think. Let me just double check this command. Bonx convex dev dash, yeah, it's dash, yeah, okay. And then what that does is basically it just runs one iteration, and it will tell us the output. And once it fails, it pretty much kind of exits out. And this is what we want for the one agents to run, because we don't want it to, otherwise it'll just kind of keep waiting until, and if that's kind of why I run this, I run without this command on the command line. So as you can kind of see, until, like this will always keep running. So as you update code for convex in the database, it's just going to keep running and updating, telling you if you have type errors or not. So, say I want to make sure you type issues solved for convex types, so we can see the type failures with convex right now. Okay, so I'm gonna let it do its thing and kind of iterate. So what I want to go ahead and do is, now that we have some code here, I'm just gonna hit stage some of the code. That way we can kind of, you know, like make sure we can kind of move forward. So here's the different stuff it's added. We got the schema as well. So, okay, while that's doing that, it's going to be doing its thing. Yeah, we've added a good number of code. It's kind of done its plan here. And hopefully in no time, we should be able to actually already start testing the billing implementation. Would be kind of fun. So we've taken this app idea that I've, you know, built within a couple weeks. You know, every week I check in, I do a live stream, and we're kind of check it out and add some more features. So we're at the stage now where we want to start actually, you know, billing our customers for this type of thing, because you know, this is actually costing money, and that's okay. So I just want to let you know that this entire stream is currently sponsored by Factory AI. And so Factory AI is, you know, I'm partnering with them because I really like the direction of where they're going with this agentic coding software. And like the team is super awesome. And I'm actually going to be interviewing them tomorrow. The two founders are going to be available. So make sure you tune in. It'll be 9:30 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And any questions you have, if you want to check out Factory AI, they have been generous enough. And I said, we have to do a partnership, but I want people to code with me. And I want them to try it out for themselves. So they give everyone who's on this stream right now 2 free months or 40 million tokens. And all you have to do is scan that QR code down below, or rfer.me/factory. And that's going to get you started. You know, I don't collect a commission if you sign up for this or anything like that. As part of this sponsorship, I wanted to make sure that my whole crew has access to this. So people who are on my Discord, you already got access to it last night. If you were already tuned in, I sent the link in. People have been signing up already to try to use the factory agent, and you know, like Get Maxed and some other folks who've been trying out. They've been actually kind of really liking the whole process. And I want this to be something where we do this together. And these are the types of sponsorships and stuff that I like to do. It's like companies I really like, companies I really believe in, the software where I feel like someone's really doing something for the future, something that's actually providing a lot of value, or somewhere where I realize the value is pretty much there in terms of like really thinking through this. And, you know, they're not there to do whatever. Like, this is a really serious enterprise, and they've raised a lot of money. And it's actually 2 founders that are super young who've had this problem. And, you know, they're doing some really cool, serious stuff, you know, and their backgrounds are super nerdy. So we're going to get into that a little bit later. But like this whole live stream, I wanted to kind of take a look and say, like, let's take a look at this together. The only way to make this really fun is if we're all actually trying this out. And that's just kind of the way that I roll here. You know what I mean? So like, I always want to make sure that, you know, I take care of my folks and that y'all are taken care of. And if you don't like it, let me know, because that's why I want to set up an interview with them. So tomorrow we're going to be sitting down with them. Any questions, concerns, security type of stuff, we can ask them as well. And so that'll be kind of really awesome to see us cook. So good to see you cooking live again, for sure. I signed up. Yeah, for sure. Random question. What do you think typically, what do you typically turn to for security? Evals, example, NVIDIA Morpheus, highly recommended. Morpheus strands agents keeps the backend from turning to spaghetti. Tyler, I want to look more into this because I haven't really, like, as an independent developer, haven't gone to, like, I always do a review of the terms of services for a lot of these different companies. And I always try to ask questions to the founders, like, where is the data stored? What's your replication scheme for your data? What certifications do you have so far? What other customers are you currently using or have you onboarded? Like, just to understand how serious some of these types of, apps that I'm using. And a lot of the stuff I like to kind of make sure that they're kind of vetted before I use them. And so I'd be curious to know from your research, and I think you're on the Discord, right? And I would love to chat with you some more there as well. So the context window was not enough for one codex window to examine the convex codes for the bugs. That's why I used 15. Oh my God. Shikrat, if you try out Droid, just go ahead and sign up. I mean, you got like 40 million tokens. I'm really curious to see like what your workflow is going to be. And that's kind of why I like to code with everyone else, because for the folks in the Discord, like, let's kind of cook together and let me know what you guys are cooking with, because I feel like this thing is going to be pretty insane. You know what I'm saying? Droid is pretty nice experience, no complaining. But when I'm using it with GPT, I wonder how it will perform versus others. I think this is a really solid question. I also like, does GPT-5 codex, is it as good as it is in here, or is it better in the CLI with what OpenAI has? We don't know, right? So I might not have tried otherwise. Yeah, that's what's funny. I don't know if that's part of the reason why I wanted to do a stream like this, is because I wanted to kind of sit down with y'all and say, like, I don't even see many people talking about this app online. But part of the reason is because they were like enterprise only for a while, and they've just now opened up access for everyone else. So now, like, we're actually going to get our first hands with this, and like the tech behind it and the thinking behind like agentic first coding is like, this is not meant to replace engineers. This is actually meant for engineers and other people, like, who are, from different backgrounds, to be more productive in their company. So the Droid concept is more about like, designing these specific, agentic templates in some ways to run on your code and do these other types of tasks that normally would take you a long time to do. Or for me as an engineer, I put off rewriting, refactoring, usually probably more like, refactoring code, rewriting stuff, because like the way I justified not working on it right away is because it's high risk, right? And so if I have something like this that's very thorough, or that can even help me with the planning phases, and then the implementation I can kind of monitor or delegate, like, that gives me way more confidence. And that's kind of the reason why, like, I'm really interested in checking this out, because these guys are thinking through the entire software development lifecycle. And, from planning to executing the code to testing, and kind of coming full circle all the way around, customer feedback. I mean, we haven't even talked about, and we're probably not even going to get to this stream, about like how Slack is connected. You can connect, your Notion to it. You can connect Linear. You can connect Sentry. You can connect all these different things to it. And what these guys are doing at their offices, I am going to be in San Francisco for Tech Week next week. So I'm going to try to meet up with them, which would be super cool. But they literally use it for like everything. They have all these meetings transcribed. They have all this feedback from customers. Everything's being shoved into their whole Droid system. And these Droids, as a developer who's working on one of the projects, can hop into the code, start working on pull requests, and they don't have to actually know the exact code that's in the repo. In essence, they're orchestrating it. And I feel like that's kind of where things should be going. And I think that's kind of low key where the future is going with a lot of this type of stuff, if you know what I mean. So let's go ahead and see kind of where we're at with this. Yeah, just thought I'd give a heads up. So let's see. Okay, so this fixed some errors. Interesting that it added a to do. What did it say here? So what is it saying? Add signature verification. Okay, when available for EMV without the SDK installed, process by chase. Okay. So we haven't finished our steps of coding yet. So before we proceed, and so what I wanted to go ahead and do is it passed. Okay, next I'll install the SDK and I'll re-enable the webhook sign validation. Okay. I think I already have that installed, but let me just double check. Package.json. And then Polar. Yeah, okay. I have it installed here. And I put the secrets into the convex database. So we should be ready to proceed with our next steps in our plan. And okay. So, oh, I see. I think it needs the webhooks one because the webhooks thing is not installed yet. Yeah. And then the webhooks part was in the next step of our Polar payments thing. So that's going to be doing that there. So in Polar payments phase 2 webhooks. So yeah, Polar sends the webhook and then service ends. Let's see. So now it's going to think through our plan here and then phase 3. Cool. So we're still in phase 1 for the implementation, and then it added this information here. So phase 2 is the generation gating. Okay. So yeah, now it's going to think through its plan. So this has been going for like 15 minutes. Dang, this is awesome. All right, cool. What's going on with the refactoring? Hey, let's go ahead and check that out. I'm really curious. So this was our refactoring, which was like the biggest thing I was working on. And let's go ahead and just check the status. So I've synchronized the branch with the origin and confirmed that the workspace is clean. The frozen dependency succeeded and the types are validated via once type check. No local changes are staged yet. So review the existing convex code, the migration spec to pin down any remaining gaps before implementation, design the updated convex backend, and then implement. So I'll proceed with the next step and keep you posted. Yeah. Yes, please cook. Oh my God, this is too much. This is so good. Assembling thoughts. Yeah, this is great. Okay, so it's going to just start to go here and continue our... So for those who don't know, I am doing a massive migration of my code. I'm basically translating my code so that it can take advantage of... For those who don't know, the AI SDK made a whole bunch of updates. So they're now at version 5. One of the version 5 things that they actually have this thing called the transcribe. So you can do transcriptions by calling this function. It's currently an experimental feature, but I don't know, these guys are so cracked. I really do trust their stuff. And so what I did was I gave this documentation over to the Droid to go figure out how to do this. And it's going to basically take my existing code and kind of rewrite it to this specific SDK. And one of the reasons why is because they have a lot of built-in like error handling. If stuff happens, then I can do these other types of things. The other part of the advantage of using the AI SDK is the fact that there's already a lot of model providers that are built in. So you can switch model providers extremely easily by literally just passing in what specific model type you want. So in this type of thing, I don't have to write extra code or extra types of, things for this. And it's already all built into what they have going on here. So I thought this is a perfect task for Droid because me working on this independently will take multiple weeks because I'll have to chunk out each specific sections of the code and then kind of implement them. But if I just give the Droid this big idea of what I want to do, it's generated a plan already, and we've iterated on the plan several times. And I did that last night and into this morning. So this morning we kicked off like, just go do the refactor and rewrite that whole thing. And so if you aren't familiar with my app is called Ray Transcribes, so raytranscribes.com. And so what I do is all you do is basically drag a file and upload it. It looks really clean and really simple, but this is actually one of the fastest transcribers that anyone has on the internet. So you can take like a 2-hour podcast and transcribe this in less than like 90 seconds. And you get that like Whisper V3 level accuracy, which is actually unheard of as far as like the speed. So I actually vibe coded this on a live stream last year. And what I basically have done is a lot of optimizations on the client side. So on the client side in your browser, I'm taking advantage of all the accelerated, like all the stuff that's in here on your phone or on your Mac or on your PC, to do all this types of, compression and different types of things. And then I stream files out to a server, and the server is the one that's actually doing the processing. So right now I have Grok, I have a bunch of other different endpoints that I have going on. And so within that process, there's these multiple steps. And I thought, to rewrite this whole thing, it's kind of a mess, right? Like there's a lot of dependencies. And at the beginning of the stream, you saw how many hooks and things I have to deal with client-side state, which is what's happening on the browser to make sure the user is up to date and they know what's going on and nothing's hanging, to making sure that the route handler and that's set up for like a WebSocket so that, everything can kind of do its own thing. And with Convex, I should just be able to hand it the file and say, yo, y'all know what to do back there. And then the front end is just kind of waiting out and it's more reactive. And so what this is going to do for me with this whole rewrite is now like you can have as many browsers as you want open. You can kind of still do that today. But like a lot of the processing stuff is now going to be scheduled. So there's like allows me to do retries, and then allows me to also add additional features to my app. So once the transcription is already done, I can run some post-processing steps so that like I can generate blog posts, I can generate timestamps, I can do a lot more stuff with it. And a lot of this is the reason why I want to migrate over completely for the route handler to go from Cloudflare to Convex. So Convex already has a database for people who are logging in and everything. And this is kind of the app that I'm building for Ray Transcribes. And as you can tell, like it's a really, really big repo. And so to do this type of migration isn't really easy. And that's kind of why I've been putting it off for a while. And this is a really good task for the Droid to actually take a look at for us. So here's the proposed gap review proposal plan. So I thought I had my plan already figured out, but as the Droid is going to go implement this, it's actually coming up with some gaps in our thinking, which I really appreciate. You know what I mean? So it found that the implementation is against this migration spec. So their server-side flow is still in the old model. The Convex only tracks these types of things. So no Convex storage usage. And the Convex schema is ready but unused. Okay. The client hooks remain tightly coupled. Missing Convex interfaces for these. This is great. So the proposed implementation back. So it's now going to actually do the right thing. So it initiates the jobs, issue assigned URL. Yes, this is awesome. Okay. And then the actions here are going to fetch the audio blobs. Perfect. Generate. Awesome. Client refactor. Upload wizard, orchestrate FFmpeg pre-processing call, and trigger. This is amazing. Feature gating rollout. Wow, I like this. So that way I can have the app that's running and my customers won't have any downtime. And then I can test this in a different environment. So this is really awesome. Okay. So before diving into code, can you confirm which rollout strategy you prefer? The Big Bang cutover immediately and leave the old Next.js route unused aside from the feature flag or the phased rollout? I don't know about you guys, but I'm kind of feeling YOLO right now. This is in a current branch. So I feel like the more responsible thing will be the phased rollout. But I'm kind of wanting to, because I don't have like thousands of paying customers, I just kind of want to do a big cutover and then kind of work really quickly to fix things. So let's do a Big Bang cutover, but we're not going to actually cut the main branch. Oh, actually, let's see. Let's do the Big Bang. Let's do the Big Bang. We will keep all the changes in the branch and we will never merge to main because we want to make sure that this feature is pretty much nailed down. And that's what we're going to go ahead and do here. We're never going to merge any changes to main. I think that's it. So I'll let it do its thing there. I've just tuned into the show. Is it against cursor? Right now, we're not really doing like a versus type of thing. I'm just kind of showing you how I use Factory AI for my planning, for like a refactoring task that I've been wanting to do, but I put off forever because I just don't want to refactor this thing. And now I'm kind of like low key forced to do this. So yeah, let's see. And then what is the other thing that I want to do? Let's see. I'm going to fix my lighting here situation. And so, yeah, I think that's kind of why I wanted to like, there's a lot of people who want to get started right now. So like a lot of people are scanning the link. And so I want people to kind of code alongside me and use this and kind of, get your opinion right now live. Right. So, yeah, I know it's crazy. I was having to change my implementation plan so that I orchestrated like 6 agents. Dude, you're so crazy. Yeah. Some people on here are just like really coding like crazy with these types of agents. So I'm going to get this light a little bit brighter. Let's chat someday. To be clear, I'm not a pro, but just somebody who vibe coded their way into enterprise level application who happen to have access to feedback from enterprise customers. Let's go, Tyler. Let's go. Yeah, dude, I'd love to chat more because I'm curious to hear about what your security implementations are. I don't know if you guys know this, but Factory AI is actually, I think has worked with a couple, is working with enterprises. And I think one of them was Ernst & Young. So of all the different places, like a finance company on top of this, like you would think that they would be the ones who would be super behind on this, but I think everyone's rushing to adopt AI as fast as possible in their companies. So this wrote to memory about the Big Bang rollout thing. So it remembers that in the future. So here's my design phase. So we're going to basically Big Bang it is. We'll keep everything isolated and then ship the convex pipeline and leave the main untouched. Okay, cool. So here we are. Here's the actions we're going to do. I like this breakdown that it does for the plan. This is really nice. Client refactor, cleanup, observability, QA path. Okay. Do already live. Or do I add placeholders documentation to supply them? Those keys are not yet live on Convex, but we can add placeholder documentation and then I will supply them once we're done with some of the phases. And then what else is going on here? I just want to, sorry, my camera's a little bit in the way. So storage codes, any specific limits on retention policies beyond the 7-day cleanup? Should we respect the enterprise plan considerations? As of now, we're just going to do the 7-day cleanup for everyone. And that's just give us enough time to reprocess if there are failures or if they need to add words to the dictionary. And then later on, we can do something different. But for now, we're just trying to keep everything simple. Obviously, before you proceed with anything, make sure you update the various plans in the documentation folder so that we can keep track of things. Okay, so now I'm letting the agent kind of continue on with its cooking there. So yeah. Is it really better than Cursor? I actually think it's very different from Cursor. With Cursor, I have to spend a lot more time like hand-holding the agents, which is kind of a little bit of what I'm doing here too. But for planning is kind of like the biggest reason why like I'm really interested in kind of what's going on here, because for planning, what's happening is like I have to give it like some documentation or pull in other types of tooling to help it kind of dig through my code repo, where the Droid is kind of already doing that just by my description of what I want to do. Because this is just kind of the way I work. I just dump in a bunch of ideas. Here's an output or here's a direction I want to go. And I really enjoy this nice back and forth I'm having with their Droid as far as like clarifying questions, finding gaps in my knowledge, finding and reviewing an existing plan. And while it's going to do the implementation, it's coming back at me with questions, which I really, really love. One of my pet peeves is Claude Code saying, you're absolutely right. Like we've not seen that here, right? And we're using GPT-5, but we've seen like usually when I'm using GPT-5 and Codex, it will just get work done, but it doesn't come back with clarifying questions. So this is really interesting here. I don't know if you noticed that, but like this is actually interacting with me more often than what you see me normally when I'm using Cursor. And this is what I really like as an engineer, because I want to make sure that, there is clarity for these little details. And if I don't know, I can ask more questions. And so that's why I feel like it's a lot different from Cursor. A lot of the stuff, especially in these different IDEs, is like they really just want to get their stuff done and get out of there as fast as possible. So I still want to do like a full comparison. Right now, this is basically our first look as a live stream together. And, I'm actually partnered with Factory AI so they can provide everyone with 2 free months. So all you have to do is get started. It's just rfer.me/Refactory down below, or scan that QR code. And that's going to basically get you to create an account. I don't get any commission or anything like that when you sign up for that, or anything like that. They're sponsoring the stream. As part of sponsoring this thing, I want my people to code with me, ask some questions, and then on tomorrow, I'm going to be going live with the founders, and we can actually ask them more questions and give them some feedback on using the agent so far. But yeah, still learning as well. Ray, what MCPs do you use for design? Right now, I don't really use any MCPs for design, but I'm trying to look into this. So I had Safinas on, I think a couple days ago or earlier in the week, and we actually did a really great live stream using V0, 21st Dev, and literally handing back and forth screenshots and stuff. And she was able to cook really, really hard. So if you haven't had a chance to, definitely check that out. How about that factory token? Bro, is my stream frozen? Hopefully it's not. Let's see. As of right now, it's showing 72 people on YouTube, one person I think on Discord, or not on Discord, on Twitch. It doesn't show me how many people are on LinkedIn, but I think we got 616 folks on X. Let's go. Okay. Let me know if the stream's frozen or not. Sometimes it hangs for 5 seconds and comes back. Okay. Not seeing MCP support. Dang. So Factory does support MCPs. I think if you do / in the command line, you should be able to kind of configure them there, /MCP, I think. So send it for sure. I'm going to test Droid so I can dump a huge project in there and have it help me refactor. I got a couple million lines of code and share your YOLO feeling right now. Tyler, I'm telling you, bro. Yeah, we'll see. How does it compare to Cloud Code with planning? I find it... So I think there's a couple of things, Mike. Compared to Cloud Code with planning, I get to choose whatever model I want, right? So I chose GPT-5 High. I like High because to me, for whatever reason, the thinking is very similar to, the way its thinking window is. And I don't like the gaslighting effect that I get from Claude. I feel like I've been so burnt out from it. I should try Opus with high thinking and the Droid, because that is actually the one that got the highest benchmark score out of all of them. And so I still need to try that. But as far as planning in general, I did all my planning last night for some of these apps, especially that big refactor. And that was just using GPT-5 High. And the level of detail was amazing. And then today, when we're actually implementing the code outside of moving from the planning phase, we're seeing kind of that happen here. And so I like the planning. It's pretty straightforward. Sometimes you don't need a crazy big plan. For example, we can go back to the DripMeOut, and then I'm going to show you how far we are along with the implementation of polar.sh. Because we're now going to be taking payments from our app just by giving it some of the documentation from the web. And to me, this is really exciting because now, a lot of this kind of the boilerplate stuff is kind of now being taken away from. So here is it working through my documentation. So now this is proceed with the next phase 3, keeping the documentation complete as we each phase. Okay, cool. All right. Oh, this is awesome. So yes. Okay. Yes. Now cook. All right. Let's see if it understands what I'm saying. All right. So it's assembling its thoughts. And here it's generated this massive to-do list, and it's going to work on my big, massive refactor. Okay. Wow. So it's going to keep generating its things and doing that type of stuff there. So let's go back to the DripMeOut thing and see where we're at with this. Yeah. I'm pretty happy with the fact that we get new models pretty much weekly to play with. Some of them are provided for free in Cursor and can't be free. Yeah. Did you ever use the BMAD method since most of these terminals come with planning mode? Yes, I tried BMAD method, and at the beginning, right out the gate, it just seemed to be a little way too much for what I was actually looking for. I wanted something more lightweight, so I kind of created my own documentation workflow, which is kind of what you see here. And then the Droid has their own basically documentation workflow, which is what we use to generate this plan here for implementing the stuff inside of Polar. So I'm actually integrating Polar, and we started off with a plan here, and we've actually had that plan written out to a markdown file to work with. So that's kind of where we're at with this type of thing. Let's see. Where are we? So I'm now catching up with the Polar integration, and it looks like it wrote a whole bunch of code, and now we've made it this far, and what are we at? Okay, next steps, confirm the access token are set. Do you want a strict webhook signature? Let me just make sure. Let's see. Just want to make sure all that different stuff set up. Okay. Okay. So all my functions are ready. And then let me just go back and run the app. So do you want to, okay. So now if I refresh the app, theoretically I should already have payments. This would be crazy if it works. Buy 5 credits? No way. What? Yo, what? This is crazy. So this is currently in the sandbox environment. What? Oh, wow. So I think, whoa, okay. So if I do something, wow, I can drop an image like a screenshot. So this is like a screenshot and I can go to like the thumbnails. So here's my code supernova, right? So I'm gonna just upload this and I wanna see what happens. I'm just really curious. So upload failed, network issue, connection didn't try again. Okay, so I'm just gonna make sure our issues are resolved. I don't know what's going on with my network issue. Huh. Oh yeah, let me just reload the app. Let's see. Okay, now it's uploading. Processing. So right now it's just processing my image. Okay, and this is buy 5 credits. So we do get punched out to the sandbox and it doesn't include the actual email here, which is really interesting. So I'm gonna see if I can go ahead and do that. But basically what we ended up doing now is my app now has payments. And so I've hooked up payments literally just by telling the Droid to go look at the Polar documentation and give it the LLMs.txt and I said, I want to integrate payments, and I created the product in Polar, gave it the IDs and the webhook stuff. So it wrote the code in Convex for the webhook. It wrote all of the different stuff that's, like a little button to punch out to there. And just like that, we already have payments. So I want to make sure the payments work. But the thing is that I don't understand, I guess what I don't really understand is how the email and stuff are going to get tied together. And this is what I want to ask the agent. So I want to say, okay. So far, I've been able to confirm that the button punches out to Polar and the correct product ID is shown, which is great. And I think we should always verify the webhook signature if it's not already, because I already have the secret set up inside of Convex. And the thing that I need a little bit more clarity on is, are we sure that when the customer checks out that their whatever email they put into Polar is going to be tied to the current account that they're signed in with? Because I want to make sure that the payments are linked together and they don't accidentally have different emails and different stuff going on. I don't know, that's kind of really vague, but I'm going to see if I can figure it out. So basically, I guess what I'm trying to say here is right now with this payment integration, if you type in a different email, for example, like your admin is the one that's actually doing the billing, you want your billing to go to finance@raywhatever.com. You probably put that in there and then you're signing in with your own email account, right? So what happens and how are we keeping track of that? So Polar itself is the payment processor, but Polar also provides the dashboard and the interface for keeping track of all your payments. And so they make all the GUI and everything really easy to manage and easy to see. So I know this sounds like a commercial for Polar, but it's totally not. So in the sandbox itself, if we go to sandbox.polar.com, see sandbox.polar.sh, sorry. So they have the products and they have usage and billing. They also have benefits as well and sales. So it keeps track of all your stuff. And this is our product. And so you can see who has signed up for the product, and then they will be listed in here as far as anyone who's placed orders, and you can keep track if there's metrics and various things that are being done here. So I'm just curious to see how it's going to do that. Whether do we even need this type of system, or is this something that Polar already takes care of? And we just need to, it's just going to generate an ID, and that ID is going to be stored in for us. So what it's doing here, it's now thinking and saying, it's kind of doing its thing here. Okay, cool. It's awesome. Ray, factory hooked us up with some credits and we're testing. Refactoring, Ray's refactoring. I think that's what we're all doing right now. We're literally all refactoring. This is wild. Yeah. So if you haven't had a chance to, yeah, definitely check it out. I'm going to adjust my camera settings again while this is going. So that way we can kind of start cooking. And so that's kind of that going on there. And those are my secrets. Okay. So what are we doing here? So now it's going to verify the standard webhook. This is awesome. Okay. Sweet. Oh, okay. It's like a cursor. Yeah. So it's not an IDE, but it's an agent. So the droid is like their word for an agent. And let me just kind of break into what we've learned and kind of what's going on so far. So let me kind of pull that up over here. I know I have a lot of different windows, but bear with me for a second. So as of now, here is the, they have this concept of droids, and these are going to be like the things that are going to be delegated. And you can access these on the web via the command line interface. So on the command line interface, you would just basically just drop in details like saying, I want to do a refactor. But if you're more on the web and you don't want to use that, you can link it up to, just go to view details and start a new session. So when you start this conversation on the web, you can actually install this bridge, which will like connect to your repo and start to actually write the files directly. And so you can operate that way. And in the actual IDE like cursor, you can have it available here as well. And what is interesting, like what makes this whole thing really interesting to check out to begin with, and kind of why I got really excited about it, is it's actually scored extremely high on a lot of these benchmarks. So let me go ahead and see if I can kind of take you to the actual blog here. News here. So they scored #1 on Terminal Bench. So people are like, well, how does this compare to Claude Code, or how does it compare to Codex CLI? This is kind of where they're standing with their benchmarks. And so what they're doing is they're basically doing a lot of the context management, and they're not only doing context management just for writing code, they're doing it for like the planning tasks. They're doing it for big refactoring tasks. They're doing it for things that like every engineer like really dreads. So as an engineer, I hate refactoring. There's so much hairy code. There's stuff I know I should be doing. I should be writing more tests. I should be writing better documentation. So they've basically have generated these different, droids, and each of these droids take on the persona of actually implementing that stuff for you. And so they can work together. You can work with them in parallel by launching multiple tabs or multiple agents to run in different, command line tabs. And so they'll all be kind of doing their own tasks and coming back to you with everything that they're kind of programmed to do. And so what's nice about it is you don't have to like have all these different prompts set up that you're going to be feeding it into it. It's just a general purpose agent, you can kind of say, and they call it the droid. And as far as like design, like for the performance of the model, here's it like Opus 4. So if you just take Opus 4.1 and you throw the droid on it, you're going to get a 58%, the benchmark score compared to Claude Code, right? So that's a big leap there. So their context management compared to Claude Code is already like top tier. And if we're talking about GPT-5, here's the Codex CLI. And so this is the difference between the two. And then if you're throwing the Sonnet model, the same model, right? But you just throw the droid on it, like the performance difference is vast. So that's what's really interesting, is that the agentic system that these guys are doing is pretty awesome. Obviously, with the CLI, you're going to have like MCPs and all this different stuff. So they also believe in like this minimalist approach, strictly limiting tool repertoire to central operations, model-specific tool scaffolding when behavioral differences are warranted. And then this is basically how they're doing for their different tasks. So for the execute tasks, per the model and so forth, this is kind of what they're doing there. So this whole write-up is they're kind of explaining how they've done this. And I feel like they've pretty much have kind of cracked the agentic coding frameworks. And that's different than Cursor, because Cursor just lives inside of an IDE. And, the IDE experience is what I'm still using inside of Cursor. And as far as like the agent, that's kind of like the different story. Like what's going to be doing all that thinking? What's going to dig through all the different files? Is it going to be as diligent? Can I trust this with my refactor? And that's why I said, hey, I have to partner with you guys, because I want not only me playing along with the stream, but I want you guys to also play along with well. So definitely get that free trial link below. 2 free months. If you just use my link, I don't think anyone's giving this out, because I've got this exclusive partnership with them. And so they're sponsoring this stream, and they're also sponsoring tomorrow's live stream, which they're going to be on And so we can ask them questions. So I encourage you, if you're watching this video later on, there's going to be timestamps for us going back so you can kind of track to different points that you want to keep track of. But if you haven't had a chance to, rfer.me/Refactory, scan that code there, and that'll get you started on that 2 free months or 40 million tokens. So you can start to, start your refactoring tests, start that task that you hated to do, and just test it out for yourself. I mean, I feel like sometimes you just need someone else like me to code along with you, so we can get some stuff done. So what are the updates we have now to our code? I'm just double checking some of these things. So in here, now we're going to validate these things. Okay, apply the patch. Okay, we're good. All right. So, all right, linking payments to a signed in user. Yes, this is tied to the clerk user regardless of email. So we set the external customer ID to equal the clerk subject subject server side when creating the checkout. And in the webhook, we use the data customer externality to grant the credits. Okay, so the email customer enters at checkout won't affect the mapping. This is awesome. This is so awesome. Optional hardening. If you want the checkout UI pre-filling the same email, we can pass customer email at the session, but credit linking already relies solely on the external customer ID. I think I want to add the optional customer hardening. Let's go ahead and add the optional hardening because that will just be more reassuring to the user that that's the account that they're signed in with. Oops, I don't think that worked. Let's go ahead and add the optional hardening at the checkout UI because that will reassure the user that's the account they're signed in with. And if they want to change it, they can change their email if they want to. I think it's going to put that in. Okay, cool. So that's doing its thing there. So yeah, that's what's up. Storms in Hawaii. No, yes and no. I think there's some clouds that are coming through. So yeah, it's funny to see the lighting change, and I'm gonna have to change up my my whole thing here. So let's see. Yeah. So yeah, I think Mike says it right here. So like it's a bit different. It seems to have a different process for planning and more spec driven for sure. Yeah, it's kind of similar to 15 codec sessions in a way. Bro, that's crazy. Yeah, thank you for explaining. Oh, for sure, for sure. That's what this live stream's for. You know what's funny? Because there's not a lot of content about Factory online. And this is kind of a really cool interactive stream. The thing I'm most excited about is the fact that they're literally just giving out these like 40 million tokens for each sign up below. So like that's so cool. I mean, those are the type of people I like to work with here. Who like not only believe in what they're doing, but they stand behind their product and they actually want to continue to make it better. So the reason probably why we haven't heard a lot about them is because they've been locked into the enterprise space and they're now approaching the other spaces. They said that a lot of their enterprise customers started using this for their side projects because they liked it so much. And so that's how you know, right? So we're now getting that chance to play around with it. And so, I've been partnering with them. I was like, yo, we got to do this. This would be so cool because I want more people to try this out. And that's what's up. Yeah. So, okay. So now the pre-fill Polar checkout with sign-in information has the buy credits plus customer email on the server. Awesome. This is great. So now it shows the checkouts a current email editable by them while checkout linking. This is awesome. Bam. Man, we're cooking, fam. Okay. So let me go back to my app and then let's go get dripped out. I'm going to refresh this here just to make sure we hit the server and everything. And so this is great. This is like it gets my plant and everything. Oh, this is too good. This is too good. All right, let's go check it out. Let's go buy some credits. Awesome. Wow. So let's just try this out. 424242424242. 44424. Awesome. Country. Can I just go pay? Oh, United States. All right. Cool. Can I just pay? Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. State, street. Okay. 6, 7, 3, 4. Okay. Hawaii. All right. Let's see. If this goes through, we're cooked. Did we make, okay, that's cool. So it looks like this should work. And now if I go to my anime studio, I have a sale. Let's go. Oh, that's awesome. Wow. Okay. So yeah, we're cooking, fam. Where are the metrics? This is like the chart I post like on X. I'd just be like, yo, fam, we made it. I'm making like $5 annual recurring revenue or monthly recurring revenue. Hey, do you have 5 on it? If you got 5 on it, let's cook. Oh my God, this is awesome. Okay, so cool. What we basically have done in like one fell swoop was damn, this is actually really impressive. Okay, so just to summarize what's happened so far, what I have done is I have used the Factory AI Droid to go and connect to the Polar documentation, gave it some of the stuff, and I said, in my app, I already have this app that's working. I want to add payments. And so people want to pay $5, they'll get 420 credits. And we're not even completely done implementing the plan. But I told the Droid to say, can you generate a plan first? I want to review it to make sure we got everything going on. And so it did that. It scrubbed through the documentation. And so this was a good test to see how good is it at scraping the web. What if we give it a really large LLM.txt file? Is it going to freak it out? Is it going to figure out everything out that it needs to get the job done? And so it generated our first spec file. And that's kind of what we're looking at here. And then from there, it just did the implementation of the code. Along the way, it broke it down into different phases for the specs. So once it completed the first phase, what we ended up doing was put in all our webhooks secrets and all the different stuff onto the convex databases. I still had some questions. So I said, I have this access token from Polar. Out of all of these, which scopes do I select for what I'm doing in the app? And it actually told me what scopes to select, which was super duper amazing. And then secondarily, when I generated the webhook, which scopes do I select there, right? I can look through it in the code, which is what I did, but I wanted to verify, is the Droid still have enough context window? Is it exhausted? Do we got to feed it some food? Does it got to go to bathroom? That type of thing. So that's what it did. It's like, okay, this is what you should be doing. And it's, still sticking through. It's not hallucinating, right? I've not yet received an absolutely right using the GPT-5 inside of Factory, their Droid model. So that's been super awesome. And then it continued to write the code for us and so forth. So as it continues to write the code, I just wanted to make sure that it had everything it needed. And then I tested it out. It's like, hey, can we just improve the experience here to make sure that like we do some hardening for the webhook, but also at the same time, we have the email that shows for the customer when they do the checkout. So that's what I saw show up at my checkout, and it made sure like it added the code there. And we still have some build. I don't know if we have any build issues that we need to resolve. I probably have to restart my TypeScript server. Yeah. But other than that, now the checkout shows the name. We've bought some credits. And so the phase 1 of the plan is complete. And we still have to implement the other phases in terms of like how the customer is going to manage their credits. Once they buy the credits, what's going to happen. And so that's all outlined in our plan. And that's what we're going to go, continue doing with that so far. So, I mean, we've accomplished quite a bit here just from like checking out Factory from that perspective. And if you haven't had a chance to, definitely go ahead and sign up. Just scan that QR code below, rfer.me/Refactoring, and that'll get you 2 months of credits, aka 40 million tokens that you can go ahead and play around with. And if we just check out like, how much would it have this cost me to implement this feature right now? So I do that cost right now. This is 1.2 million tokens. So I still have a lot of tokens to do. And this only, like to implement this feature that is literally going to pay me money, right? By implementing this, I'm charging $5 for people to get 420 credits. Like that's going to actually, pay me money. And this only cost me 1.2 million tokens. So that is done with GPT-5, on high. And this is like, this is so cool. Wow. Let me just check out to see where are we with this, because I'm really curious. Open, So far in my different refactoring things, I've used 7.5 million tokens, and I haven't used any premium ones yet. So as of now, that's kind of where we're at with this. So this here is like the big refactoring task that I did for planning. So that's the one that I did for like when I'm basically taking my existing Ray Transcribes app, I'm I had to look through all of my code files, lots and lots of code files, generate this massive plan. And right now it's currently working on that implementation as it's going to speak. We've done a planning for our DripMeOut app, and then we've also implemented the code, and that costs 1.2 million tokens. So as far as like token efficiency, it's really impressive what it's been able to do to scrub through lots and lots of documentation, scrub through lots of my code base, and understand what context it needs to feed to the agent at the right time so that it can get the stuff and get out of here. So like that to me has been super impressive. And I'm really curious to hear what your experience is, because like part of the reason why I do this live stream is because I want to take you into these processes. And it's not fun if I'm up here spending $200 to $300 a month on some type of coding thing and like you don't get access to it, and then like there's no feedback. I feel like that I'm just kind of coding by myself, and that's not fun. So I'm deeply appreciative that this entire stream is actually sponsored by Factory AI. And as part of this partnership deal, you know, because I really believe in kind of where they're going with this trajectory of AI coding, I was like, y'all got to hook up my people because we got to code together. And so for you to do that, basically that's what you got to do down below, rfer.me/Refactory, scan that code, you'll get started and check it out for yourself. Like, let me know, does this fit in your workflow? You know, there's a lot of different ways that you can get this all connected, you know, using their platform, because there's the web interface that we explored a little bit earlier, as far as like how you, you know, go to their website and start coding with the agents. So I'm doing my big refactoring task through the web. And on the web, you can actually connect this to your local repo. So this is actually connected to my repo that's currently selected in my local workspace, but you can also select it on the cloud to do that as well. So if you just wanted to just do this on the go, I could just say, can you just change this to the cloud workspace and kind of work from there? You can obviously select different models that you can use inside of this as well. And then you can have the different tool calling that you're doing. So if I had linear set up, I can actually connect this to my linear projects and do project management there. So it tries to basically meet you where you're at. Also like for the Slack as well. And like, I think you could do the browser use. So there's these different types of toolkits that you can apply on top of this. And then you can also configure the different levels. So if you're afraid that like the agent's going to take over and do too much stuff, you can actually set the autonomy level to pretty much low or off if you wanted to, or medium. So it will still check in with you. And that way, if you have it set up on your enterprise, it's not just going to go crazy with your code. And so these guys actually started off in the enterprise environment, and they've now allowed this to be available as of this week. So to start using these agents. So I'm super passionate and super excited about the direction of where this is going. And I'm really excited that y'all are here just cooking with me too live. Cause that's, I think, the more fun part. So did Claude Code just become slow today? I've been having so many problems with Claude Code. That's the other thing, David. It's like just using Opus, even on the web, it's so slow. And then Sonnet has been slow too. Factory single shot. Yo, Bridgemine, what's going on? You should do a referral, or so someone who refers a friend, they can get some credits. You know, I'll probably talk to them about that, to be honest. Right now, I was more concerned about like my audience / you guys to get access, right? Like, you know, a lot of signups are like, hey, use us and you get like 1 million tokens for free or something. And you can just see like that one task to implement that feature costs us 1.2 million tokens. But I feel like once you get the hang of it, 40 million tokens is super generous. That's like, yeah, 2 months, right? Like, I feel like that will come in the future. I also want to hear your feedback on this, right? Like, is this working for you? Is it not? You know, like I like their product, and you know, if they take a turn or it gets really bad or something like that, like, you know, why continue a partnership? Why continue working with things? Right? There's so many different options to explore. But I really deeply believe in like these guys' mission and like where they're coming from and kind of where they're going with this product, and kind of how this is going to be defined. So this is kind of why I really did this project here. How'd you connect it to the to Claude? So David, if you want to use your Claude Code account, there is a post on X from this guy named Ray Fernando that you'll want to check out. So x.com, and it's not from me, and you didn't see this at all. But if you go to this X account here, there's this guy on here who's basically talking about how to set this up. And in one of these posts here, where is it? Is it Factory? Actually, it's not from me, actually. Yay. Okay. So I think if I check out Factory AI in here, there is a post that someone was talking about okay, so this is, they're basically calling it bring your own keys. So this is post from Ben Vargas. I'm going to go ahead and link this here. So Ben actually made, he's like, hey, I noticed there's a header that's not being sent up so that I can use my Claude Code account because I have the max plan. And so I want to bring my own key and, I don't want to pay a subscription. So I'm going to put this into the actual comments here. And so that way you can take a look at this post. And so yeah, this is from Ben Vargas. I'll retweet it right now, repost. And so you may see it on my profile if you see this type of thing. So this is the key. And so this GitHub gist, I'm going to put into the chat as well. In the chat, the way you can click these things. I like having things in chat when I'm watching live streams. So that way I can just click them instead of doing all this song and dance. He basically explains the architecture overview of what's actually happening. So factory CLI calls the Anthropic format and the API key. And so his is basically called the CLI proxy API. So all he does is just add a header. And so he swaps the header that includes your thing for the Claude Pro Max account. And then he sends it back into the OAuth format that Anthropic likes for their API. So this is kind of what it's doing right now. I would always proceed with caution whenever you're swapping headers, because if you're doing something that's not intended by the API spec and then they do an audit later on, it's possible that your account can get swept within that. So I'm not recommending this option if you're wanting to take that type of risk where your account could possibly get banned or whatever. So I don't want to assume any liability. I'm just explaining and showing you this person and what they did and showing you their use case. And this is not something that I particularly endorse. But you're more than welcome to try out if you're really curious, and just know what risks you're getting into when you're doing something like this. So yeah, with that disclaimer said, have fun. So on this post that I'm telling you about, there's someone else who posted about like, hey, I have an OpenAI account and I noticed that Codex does something similar. So I made my own version of the gist. So this GitHub thread or this X thread has a lot of sauce in it too. So this other guy made this other gist here that you can do. Oops, cancel. That you can kind of check that out. So if you haven't had a chance, check out those threads. Are really interesting, especially since you're going to be coding here on the weekend. You'll have some time to take a look at that, and be it as it may, have some fun. I mean, like, I'll let you cook. Let me know if it works for you. I'm really curious. I know a lot of other people who are watching this are also very curious about that. So that's how you can bring your own keys. Since you're already paying $200 a month for some plan, I could see a need for this, but just beware if you're using something where it's not intended for the API spec and they do an audit. It's possible you could get banned / kicked out. And so that's never really fun. So yeah. With that said, okay, cool. Nice. Yeah. That's kind of what we do around here. Yeah, we're just trying to use these types of tools. So let's see where this is going so far. So far as our convex migration for my big transcript app, it's ready for the next steps. So it's reviewed the summary. It still has an updated spec document. No additional changes were made for the session. How would you like me to proceed? Should I pick up phase 3 of the convex API surface? Yes, please pick it up. Yes, please pick it up and continue. Cool. So this has dropped a bunch of code. Here's like some updates to the schema. Let me just kind of swap this. So I think I could swap the windows. Oh no, what did I do? Okay. Let me swap it back. Okay. Yeah. I think it's working on its thing. And then now it's kind of making some changes over here to this file. Okay. Awesome. Where are we at? Okay. So it's now, yeah. So this is the big refactor. It is going through a lot of lines of code. Yeah. I'm not excited about my refactor, but we'll see. I mean, like, this is the reason why I put out my refactor, because I didn't really want to do it. All right. So now we have this feature shipped. I think what I want to go ahead and do is, not that it's shipped. The one for accepting payments is done. So we've made a lot of changes, and yeah, we really buy credits button. Wow. Okay. So what I think I want to do is I want to tell Factory to make sure that documentation is up to date, and that I'm going to stage some of these changes here. Stage them. Okay, cool. So this is looking good so far. I've been able to do a test using the button, and it looks like the checkout works. And what I want you to do is update the documentation and make sure that we have some idea of where we are in the current progress of the Polar Payments spec. That way, the agent can continue the work in another chat window. And then README. So I have a documentation README. Explains how this is laid out. Okay. So what I'm doing now is basically I'm having Factory kind of take a look and say, like, we've done this so far. I verified the first phase works. And usually at this time, I got to go to the beach. I don't know about you, but it's currently 9 o'clock and it's beach time. I've been online here since about like 6:30 this morning, and I've been coding live, and it's probably just a good time in general to take a break. Sometimes like I really don't like sitting for a long time, and I need to get some breakfast and do other types of things. So it's usually a good idea to kind of wrap up the day or wrap up the coding session by telling it to write some of this documentation so that we can go on later on. So the second part of this that's going to be really interesting is that because I have this repo on the web, in GitHub, I can just go to the factory web, go to api.factory.ai and in app.factory.ai, I'm actually just continuing to say, hey, while I'm at the beach, go ahead and start to implement the rest of the spec. And so it's going to continue to do this agentic workflow. Part of the reason why I wanted to do it in the terminal is because I wanted to see the code firsthand, as it's writing the files and doing that type of thing. But because this is also available on the web, it doesn't matter what IDE I have, as long as the code is available online. So this is similar to what you would get like with background agents and these types of things. But the Droid is its own agent, and it's really powerful because it can implement specs, it can implement plans, it can execute code, it can refactor, it can generate documentation, it can do a lot of different types of tasks. And so the benchmark scores are really high, and it is showing that. And it's super enjoyable. It's been like kind of fun to just let it do its thing and not really have to spend a lot of time kind of like crafting out these different workflows, because a lot of that stuff is built in. So for me, if you're sort of like beginner friendly or something like that, you may want to throw a lot of stuff at this and just let it kind of figure it out for you. And you can select different models in the CLI by doing /model here. And then that's how you're able to select the different models from GPT, Opus, whatever your favorite model is. And that's kind of what it is. So if you haven't had a chance to sign up, go ahead and check out that factory, rfer.me/Refactoring. And that's how you're going to be able to get that 2 free months or 40 million tokens. And I'll be having an interview with the founders tomorrow. And so that's what we're going to go ahead and do. Oh, awesome. Ray mentions, hopefully it helps us in chat. Cool. It's 9 p.m. here. Wow. Great show. Yeah. So make sure to tune in tomorrow, because tomorrow we're going to have, I'm going to interview the founders, and this whole live stream, is sponsored by Factory AI. So I wanted to let you know that if you haven't had a chance to. And as part of this partnership, I've asked them to provide, free access for us. So not only I can use the app, you can use it with me and, refactor code. So, definitely check it out by tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. I'll be interviewing the founders. And so we're going to ask them some more questions like, what is the background, kind of why, what are they seeing in this space? They are what I call AI practitioners in this space, and they are actively using this to build software themselves. But not only for themselves, they're also helping other enterprises do that. And just now this week, they basically now are allowing us to do that, who are non-enterprise people. So we get access to the software. And so this allows you to bring your own keys. So you can even bring your own keys if you don't want to use to sign up for an API credits with them. And if you just want to sign up right now, you can just use that 40 million tokens. Once it uses up, you can switch it over and kind of start cooking yourself, right? So you get access to that really powerful agent, which is super amazing. That agent can be used on the web. Their Droid can be used on the web. Their Droid can be used in IDE. You can just use in the terminal, and you can kind of launch it in the CLI. There's that factory bridge process that we talked about earlier for getting that set up. And there's also a lot of different modalities you can do for that type of planning. So if you want to stay tuned, I'm definitely going to be coding through using this. So you may see me on live streams later on, even though it's not sponsored per se, because this is fire. If you have an agent that this powerful and this thoughtful as far as helping you with the engineering workflow, for me, I'm just going to keep giving it these refactoring tasks until it doesn't do it anymore as well. So like there's so much like technical debt or other hairy parts of code bases that have been, even with the current modern like Claude Code, Codex and all that stuff, like it's still a lot of work to prepare those models to make sure they're steered correctly. And that's kind of been the bane or the Achilles heel of just a lot of this agentic coding, is that I just want to sit in the architecture seat. I just want to tell it to do these types of things, set up these tests. When incidents happen, making sure that there's a root cause analysis set up for this so it can learn from itself in the future, right? There's like hooking this up to other types of things in the future as I scale up. So if one of my apps really takes off and I add Sentry for the logging, like that'd be really good for reliability stakes. As something goes off, I get an alert from Sentry or a text message, right? And then I could just send that message over to, the factory Droid saying, hey, can you fix this Sentry issue? And it itself is going to know what to do. I don't have to give it all this context because it has access to all that data, right? So that's kind of what's I find more amazing. It's like, I'm only looking at this from right now, like as a single person entrepreneur, but from an enterprise perspective, from like, if you do scale up to that level, that's really amazing. And if you come from like the FANG background, if you have worked in these bigger companies, you understand all these different processes you need to have in place to like make sure that your stuff is robust. And I think these guys are pretty much have figured that stuff out, and they're pretty much laying it out for us to play around with. So yeah, highly encourage you guys to go play around if you haven't done that. So good demo today on Factory. Also, thanks for the free tokens given to start cooking. This is what it's about, man. Like, I'm all about trying to give as much as possible. Like, these people like are super generous with their time and their energy. And I think it speaks a lot that how confident they are. They're like saying, hey, just check it out. Like, use it. Give us the feedback. Let us know. And I don't know if you follow them on Twitter, but like, there's people who are trying to like riz them right now and like just really try to rail their feathers. And they're just like, hey, Factory AI here. How can I help you? Like, would love to get you to try. And everyone's like, oh, you're just not one of these like weird scam companies. I was like, and so that's what I really appreciate about that. It's like, they're just actually real people. Yes. But they actually care about what they do. And they're super cracked. But yeah, you're going to find out more tomorrow, which would be super duper fun. So appreciate that stuff. I'm trying it right now. Love how you explain stuff. Oh, I really appreciate it, man. When is the interview? So the interview tomorrow is at 9:30 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time on Sunday. So if you're at the West Coast time, 9:30 a.m. In Hawaii, it's 6:30 a.m. And then in New York, 9, 10, 11, 12, 12:30 a.m. or 12:30 p.m. in New York. And then if you're on the other side of the world, like some folks are saying like maybe in Germany or something, I guess it would be 6:30 p.m. So yeah, a lot of bases covered when we're talking about that. So that'd be definitely cool to check out. Thanks for your time and token. What time is the stream tomorrow? So yeah, 9:30 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Check that out. I actually have if you just go to my profile on YouTube, if you're subscribed, you can actually get a notification by going to the live stream right now. I already have it scheduled and posted, so you can just go ahead and say, be notified when I go live. That way you'll get that stream. You'll actually get an email, which is awesome. YouTube sends you an email when you hit I want to be notified. And so whenever I go live, you'll get that email for that specific stream. So I think that's definitely one to check out there. Yeah, I appreciate it. Any other questions you guys have, just let me know. I know people are trying it out right now. So yeah, if you want to try it out, the link is here, rfer.me/refactory. Let me just go ahead and drop this in the chat again if you haven't had a chance to. If you're on the YouTube live stream chat, there's actually a pin thing at the very top. You can click that link, and that link is going to actually take you there. Also, I guess the obligatory smash the up thumbs and everything like that, because that way, not only does it do that, but it makes me dance for the algo. It's like one of those TikTok NPCs, or I'm just kind of doing this type of thing. But yeah, let me just put that HTTPS. That way y'all have this https://rfer.me/ray factory, FACTORY. So this is the link you'll click. That'll come in below. So that's the stuff you sign up for. So that'll get you the 2 free months. If you haven't had a chance to, 40 million tokens, go cook, my friends. Like, I think this is an amazing time to be alive. And I think before I sign off, I definitely want to let y'all know about like kind of the history of vibe coding, kind of how I got started. If you want to kind of stay here, I feel like if you made it this far, you pretty much are cooking with me super hardcore. And so one of the things that like happened is like last year, right around August timeframe in July. I mean, before that, I was, earlier in the year, I was coding by copying and pasting from ChatGPT, into my Python projects, into Swift projects, into everything, right? And then you start to discover these limited capabilities. And then it wasn't until Claude Sonnet 3.5 came out, and I was using that a lot on the web, copying and pasting, and then Cursor integrated that as part of their, composer. It was called Cursor Composer back then. And that's what I was doing. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is crazy. I can just have it work through my files. And that was a big mind blown. And I started to do a live stream, and it started out on X where I was just sharing some of my techniques. And it was just easier for me to explain on live stream. And that's kind of how I got started. This is kind of why you're probably seeing me today, because it literally started with this conversation with me and my friend. I was literally talking to my friend on camera like this. I didn't care if there was 1 or 3 people watching, but I wanted to show my workflow. And I think this is a new movement that we're starting here on social media, where like I'm brave enough to just turn on my camera and explain to you as I go, right? I call myself an AI practitioner, right? I used to be an engineer at Apple, but I'm not coming at this from like, I know everything. I don't really. And some of the best engineers don't know everything. And they admit that because that's how you learn fast. And that's how you learn from experts and people in their field. So I'm always constantly searching out people who know more than me, who are really good in this type of space, but also like community is a big deal. Part of when I worked at Apple was I was around a lot of really intelligent people, and that's how I learned on the job. And so in this space, it's kind of really hard to do that online. So me turning on this live stream and you showing up and being here for the community is a really big positive thing. And I definitely appreciate that. And that's kind of why I'm super happy that, like Factory AI kind of believes in this movement, right? They believe in this movement. They sponsored my channel. They sponsored this live stream. They sponsored the next, this next post as well. And not only that, but they give us the credits because they truly understand that like you have to use these products and truly understand at the very base level, like how to, use these products so that you can understand like what change you're actually going to affect. And they're not charging per seat for like most enterprise companies. They're charging, for the usage, right? So like, that's the kind of thinking that I think about. It's like I use these practically. And so with that evolution of where we are from last year, literally last year to where we are today, Claude Code has come out, like the Opus 4 models, right? Cursor changed the name from Composer to Cursor Agent, right? Agentic coding became a thing where it would take on more and more tasks. And back then, I would just give it this really large prompt to do what agents are currently doing it today, right? So they now have broken it apart into multiple steps. And then the introduction of thinking models in the last 6 to 8 months have really exploded this whole landscape, because now you can take multiple steps, call tools, take time to reason, process that, figure out what the best direction that these agentic pieces of software need to move into. And this field moves incredibly fast. So I'm really appreciative that you're able to join this live stream, hang out with me, and stay tuned, because if you haven't subscribed yet, definitely stay subscribed, because I'm just going to keep doing these live streams more and more. And as companies come across my radar that I really like or I really trust, I'm going to go ahead and start partnering with them, because I feel like, they believe in the movement. They understand where we are going. And for the folks who have supported me, who are members of my YouTube channel from the very early days, a big shout out to you guys too. Frank, my first member as a paying member to subscribe, my first 100 members who have joined. You guys have helped like from this very beginning of this movement when I was like under 100 subscribers to now I think over like 15 to 16K, which is absolutely incredible. So I big shout outs to you guys, and a big shout outs to the factory team and the people out there who are like sponsoring this whole thing to make this whole movement happen. We're at the very cutting edge of AI coding, and this is only the start of where the puck is going. So if you're just seeing this for the first time, or if you've just been recently introduced to coding with AI models, there's a lot of different opinions out there, and we're just here to look at this very practically with our own eyes, with our own experience, with our own backgrounds, and apply these techniques and share them with each other, because that's how we're really going to grow together as a community, but also to make sure that we can be partners in this AI thing, right? I don't believe that AI is just going to completely take everyone's jobs. I feel like it's going to actually enable more people, maybe people who didn't really focus on code, but people who are really good at product to be better engineers, right? People who are designers to kind of step into the engineering space. And you can finally do things that you maybe wished you could do before with this type of power. So these are really powerful tools, and I'm really excited to have you guys on board. And with that said, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned for tomorrow, because tomorrow's live stream is going to be fire too. So that whole interview is going to be really amazing. So tomorrow, if you haven't had a chance, so you'll probably see it on your YouTube feed, 9:30 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. I'm going to be interviewing the founders of Factory AI. Come with your questions. Drop the questions even in the comments. Even like I'm going to be reviewing the comments as well, and would love to hear what questions you have for them. If you haven't had a chance to try it, definitely check out that link here. Go try it right now. Scan that code. You get that 2 free months. Links are also in the description if you want to go ahead and sign up there, so that we can kind of get going with that, because I appreciate the whole cooking sauce, if you know what I mean. So, yeah, hello from Romania. That's awesome. Same here. There was a time where we wouldn't even use Claude, but they're all shipping pretty fast. I mean, this stuff evolves incredibly fast, and I am here for it. You're here for it. And you're part of this like actual movement. So thank you so much for showing up. And I will see you live tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time.